Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host Richard Lewis. Joining me is Thorin Shields, the esports historian. Sam's pressing the buttons. I'm not even going to do an intro straight. I'm just going to shout out the sponsors. This is a podcast that is indeed sponsored. Sponsored by ReykjavikOnSteam. You can go to ReykjavikOnSteam/RLS, or you can go to Beep with 9 E's. You can sign up, place bets. It's great. Bet responsibly, be 18+. Or you can also get 70% off a VPN.
Isn't that what you mean? Saying be 18+ is it's a weird advice, isn't it? It's like, no, I'm 17. Just be 18+. All right.
Just be 18+. If you're not, go fuck yourself. Right. And obviously, if you want 70% off a VPN, personally recommend NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. You get 70% off. It's wicked. Right. So
just be someone who can afford 30% of the fee.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't afford that, mate, then what are you even doing?
Watch my stream?
Yeah, 100%. Get the fuck out of my industry. So anyway, the reason that I'm trying to keep things at a nice, speedy pace is because obviously there's loads to talk about. But I do want to start the podcast with another episode of Petty Grievances starring Richard Lewis and Thorin Shields. Because right, as you may know, right, I do a thing called the Richard Lewis Show, which is where now I interview people. I've decided not to. Me and Sam do I Hate It Here, which is
it's a nightmare that you've been rebranding it like that. So, basically, the Richard Lewis Show was just any video on your channel, but now it's just your interview series. So, this is a branding nightmare.
Right. Listen, I'm not going to take advice from a guy who's in about 500 podcasts. You start a new series every fucking week, mate.
True.
So come on.
True.
Right,
I also will admit, by the way, part of that is though because I am an incredibly difficult person to get along with, and so I know inevitably that I will be just having to crush all these relationships and burn all the bridges. So I've got to get ready. I can't give them too much power, Richard. Just have one show. I've got 700 shows. Then as they all betray me, that's like spinning plates. I just cycle one guy in. You'll never betray me, young guy coming up with the industry. No, not for at least 2 years. Oh, good, right? Yeah, you can do a CSGO show. Bring some guy in for League of Legends, of course.
So, listen, Loco is dead. Now, let's get over to voicing veteran. Fuck, that's over.
Exactly.
This one with LS will never go wrong. Fuck.
No, exactly.
It's a nightmare. But anyway, right, so what happened was I interviewed Sir Action Slacks, who you might know from Dota, right? He's a good lad. I like him. Like a lot of the Dota talent. Not all of the Dota talent, but I like the Dota talent. And it made it to the front page of the Dota subreddit. So what I sort of had to endure as a result of that was once again the infamous 2015 DreamHack Hell in a Cell being all brought up and people just objectively lying about it repeatedly on Reddit. It is now, right? The most lied about incident in esports history.
It's up there with why you were banned from the League of Legends subreddit. Those two, because it's always the same thing. It's always people where their standards of evidence and stuff but the guy said it. That's the level we're up. So for example, I know your case there, mate. This is where you know when someone's brain is broken, is when they consider a PR statement by DreamHack to a PC Games magazine as the definitive proof of the entire incident. That wouldn't even that's fucking hearsay.
I know.
The idea that's actual proof is mental to me. But that's the be all end all to them, isn't it?
But I saw
a thing.
Yeah, well, not just that though. Also, obviously the Hellspawns statement, which came a few days after. Right. You'll notice, crucially, he released his statement saying, "I cannot be quiet anymore while Richard Lewis lies." Because what happened was they tried to get me to sign an NDA. I refused. I said, I'll say what I want when I get back. I also publicly said, before DreamHack said they wouldn't work with me, I said I wouldn't work with them because the security was lax. And so Hellspawn went and did what he did. Now, just while we got the podcast here, right, Sam.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
You were there. You were literally stood next to me when it happened with another journalist called Josh Raven. Yeah. Right? People always say, where are all the eyewitnesses? Duncan came out with the green room while it was happening, along with Tosspot, who works at Twitch. So we can just put this on the record, since there's no journalist was ever interested in taking a statement from actual eyewitnesses that were there. At any point, did I start choking Loda?
It was such like I can't believe it got so big at the time because it was such like a childhood thing. He stuck his head in your face, you pushed him away, and then there was like handbags basically. Everyone getting whoa, 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 and that was it. It was such like a nothing incident. I can't believe it.
Duncan,
got so big.
is that an accurate portrayal of what happened? Right. Okay. So in Hellspawn's version of events, he put out a fucking statement that basically said, I grabbed him by the neck, started choking him, and like pushed him onto the floor. Right? It's just the biggest.
Didn't even make it sound like people had to like pull you off or some shit,
Yeah.
you know, like run in there and rip you off or something. Because he's basically trying to imply that you were like trying to kill him or something.
If it went the way he said, why was I asking them for CCTV footage to put out there publicly? You know, absolute nonsense. But anyway.
Well, like the famous smoking gun to me was when Loda himself did that tweet where it was a picture of his neck, right? Where you can barely see anything. You can see the most faint, like pink, maybe like a bit around here, right? And the problem with that is that also showed me, one, that's terrible evidence. And two, that's the world Loda comes from. Like he thinks that's like brutal violence. Like, holy shit, look at this dude. It's like, mate, you've obviously never even been in a fight. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this guy didn't even have actual like fingerprints around his neck, and he's taken a picture instantly. That's it. That's game over right there. The fact he even thought that was evidence shows he's never been in a fight, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, it was so weird at the time because I was outside when all of this was going on. And like every 2 minutes, like a DreamHack employee would come outside and go, "Don't worry, Richard, we're wrapping it up. We're keeping it under wraps." All the while, my life was just being destroyed while I was outside. They took my mobile phone off me. I don't even know why I acquiesced to that because they wanted to prove I wasn't going to tweet about it and all this nonsense.
That's
so anyway,
itself, isn't it?
So there you go. Two eyewitnesses now, right? And put it this way, me and Duncan are mates. There's no way he'd lie for me. Me and Sam are mates. There's no way he'd lie and fucking potentially impugn his reputation moving forward because chances are he'll work in the industry long after I'm out of it. So because of the bullshit of Hellspawn's lies, right? The Baron Harkonnen looking cunt. And I have to deal with his statement, which, by the way, he was internally chastised for doing it and warned about his conduct. It was absolute nonsense. If his version was true, why isn't that the statement they gave to PC Gamer at the time? Because it was a fucking lie. It was all a lie. So I went digging in the crates, and I've said many times, like, if I'm going to get held accountable for fictions that happened 5 years ago, let's dredge up some classics. Because Hellspawn used to be a bit of an edgy boy. I don't know if you guys remember this. He used to be a bit of an edgy boy when he used to run his gossip website called ReykjavikOnSteam, right? And he used to say outrageous stuff on IRC all the time. One of the fucking, a lot of his logs got put up on a 4chan thread, and there was a mini drama about it. But basically, because it was fucking, back in the day, no one really gave a fuck. There was no real penalties. So I just want to remind everyone who Hellspawn is, okay? Just a reminder for all of y'all out there, because I'm sick of having to deal with the fucking fallout from that cunt telling lies. So let's tell some truths today. Hellspawn is a man who on IRC in a public channel said the following, and Sam, feel free to bring it up. All women are whores.
Fucking hell.
But
that's
I have
a strong opening line, I won't lie.
That's the opening line. So I just want to remind you, if you're a female employee working DreamHack events, you might want to think about this. All women are whores, but I have never paid a prostitute anyways. I have no moral problem or principle with it. I just haven't done it. I don't see much of a difference to take a woman out on a date and buy her food and drinks to have sex with her. To me, it's the same. So the proto-incel...
It's like it's some sort of AI's like examined like all the fucking low-level Twitter account men pick-up artist lines. Like that thing about like, it's like the worst like stand-up comedy open mic night shit, Richard. In the end you bloody pay one way or another, don't you? Bloody drinks and flowers. Tell you what, it's the same as getting a prostitute. And it's like that's the most like low-level fucking take I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like there's a basic premise to it. It's not good, is it? Like, come on.
He also adds the wisdom on a separate time. Boobs are important, and legs. The head you have a bag for.
What I love about that, right, is this is why the internet was a mistake. Because there's no way this guy in like some Quake channel like 15 years ago was like, How do you think this will come back to bite me in about 20 years?
Well, I'm just sick of it, mate. Like, at the end of the day, like, I hate all this cancel culture bullshit. I don't think you should be held accountable for stupid things you say in potentially private or among friends. But it's like, this guy publicly went on the record to lie about an incident to destroy my reputation. Then these DreamHack cunts that all knew about that being a lie, right? Because people like Adabisi were there and they know Hellspawns version is a lie. They know it's a lie, right? And then they all wanted to come as guests of honor to E-League. And I remember when the E-League execs came to me and said, oh, the DreamHack guy's going to be coming. Are you going to be all right with that? And then they literally wanted to come up and hang out. Like, as if everything was fine. It's like, guys, you're out of your fucking mind. I could not have this job right now because of you. You could have destroyed my entire life because of your fucking lies. So now we're not cool. Stay the fuck away. But anyway, and just as another one, he also added, there's a chick in eSport, another separate day, that in order to have sex with her, I'd have to put a bag on her head and plug in headphones, and then maybe she'd be doable. So this guy's obviously always, archetypal male feminist, very progressive. Now, here's the funny part. These aren't lies. These are legitimate things that you fucking said. So I hope people run with this. Nothing will happen, though, because you're in your little fucking protected group, you lying little rat. But I am sick and tired. I am not going to be contrite about this event anymore with Loda. He acted like a fucking twat, offered me out, offered to fight me, tried to headbutt me, and got sat because he's a little fucking bitch. And that's all there is to it. Right, and I've been contrite and apologized for 5 years to get it lied about. And remember, if I committed a crime, right, it is the law in Sweden that the police would have to gather the evidence, arrest me, and then pass it off to a prosecutor. That is how it works in Sweden. All these lies about how magnanimous Loda came in and fucking tried to say, like, oh, we mustn't press charges. He's the reason the police were there in the first place, you idiots. His insistence that they were called. So the police, the way it works in Sweden, it's not up to the person whether or not you press charges. If there is evidence of a crime, the police have to arrest you, gather the evidence, and send it to a prosecutor. Why was I not arrested? It's the only question that needs to be answered.
Yeah, if that confuses anyone, by the way, like the reason why that would make sense culturally with Sweden is like, look at Sweden. It's obviously like the ultimate nanny state, isn't it? So the reason they'll have made some sort of ruling like Richard's talking about is because they don't want it to be the sad case that can happen in other countries where, for example, like the woman calls you out because she's getting beaten up by her husband, but then by the time you get there, she's changed her mind and she decides like, oh no, there's nothing wrong, officer.
And so the police.
You don't want the person to get like coerced into that behavior. So I'm assuming they have.
We have it in the UK. We have it in the UK too. We have the exact same thing in the UK.
That was a big problem, obviously, with kids getting beaten, women, etc. Like, just
vulnerable victims that obviously, vulnerable victims that obviously then, if they're not under the impression the police can protect them, they could be at risk again. So the police obviously have to have the right in those instances to press charges. It's got a name. It's something like the unwilling victim law or something like that in the UK. But anyway, so I just don't even understand why this comes up time and time again. But I am sick of hearing about it now. Like, it's been 5 fucking years. I'm not playing the game anymore. I'm just not doing it. So all of y'all rats that have been involved in this lie and fucking wrecking my life for 5 years, but we all had to play along and play nice. We're like, nah, fuck you. Any skeletons in your closet from now on just coming out every day, every 5 minutes, digging into all your shit. Going to be bringing up as well, yeah, you, Grey Car, how you betrayed Robert Olin. So I'm never going to shut the fuck up now. You cunts are out of control. The audacity as well for DreamHack staff. I don't know if you saw that the other day, where people were saying, if you're a player, learn to work out things behind closed doors because you burn bridges when you go public. Yeah, you burnt mine, you fucking cunts. What an absolute hypocritical dog shit company. So yeah, we'll be on you for a bit, I think now, like, because I am sick and tired. Also as well, Hellspawn is a moderator on the Dota 2 subreddit. He can chime in and delete all those lies anytime he wants. Nah, not gonna, is he? Not gonna, is he? So guess we'll just have to talk about why you were a literal fucking incel for fucking 10 years, you woman-hating piece of shit. Let's have a chat about it sometime. Right, anyway, there you go.
I've got a couple of things for you on that, actually.
Petty grievances.
One thing that people won't know, and this is an example of where you've got to be one or the other. You can't be in between the two. So DreamHack, if people don't know, part of why they were at one point in time a really cool company to work with is they literally did have like, I mean, what the fuck do they call it in Sweden? Like the scene ethic or whatever, where it's like you come from the scene because you do it for passion. Obviously, that's where DreamHack, the actual land came from. A bunch of nerds get together, hook the PCs up, like you're doing all those things. If people don't know, this is the real thing. Like one of the things as well as esports tournaments was you had these things called like demo competitions or whatever, where you make like a little graphical thing within a certain amount of bytes, like you're allowed, and you try and be creative with an intro or some shit like those crack trolls used to be back on the day if you had a PC or an Amiga game or something. Anyway, the point I'm getting to is this, because that's where DreamHack comes from. Their slide almost in the span of a year from with this really cool, like sort of community grassroots company where people do it out of passion to we are now utterly cynical corporate fucks was outrageous. Like this is like, put it this way, this is like the movie, like bad guy who like just goes from being like a cool guy to like, I'm just going to sell out, man, and just like work for the man. Like it was that bad. Like, because if people don't know, I only put this together myself years later. I think 2015 was the year off the top of my head when DreamHack was bought by MTG, right? Or ESEA, one of the two. I think it was around that time though, right? And I remember it was for some figure like 20 million euros, right? I never put this together at the time. That was when DreamHack still used volunteer labor for the majority of those DreamHack seasonal events. Like if you went to DreamHack Winter, I remember chatting to one of the girls who was like working the events, who led those orange like fucking t-shirts they all used to wear. And I once said to her something like, so how does this gig work? Like, what do they pay you? And she was like, what do you mean? We're all volunteers. I was like, but you're doing, because like, by the way, they were putting up the scaffolding, they were running all the things, like they were doing every little dog's body task, and these people were just doing it essentially. Like I said, from once upon a time, they wouldn't have had any money, would they? They were just paying these people nothing at a time when they'd sold the company for tens of millions. I remember just thinking, like, this is even dirtier than someone just straight up being a straight capitalist. Like, you just work for me, whatever. Like, these people are scum. So that's one thing I've always had a problem with that group in general. It's no surprise to me, Richard, and everyone else I consider really talented doesn't work with DreamHack anymore. Because if you don't know, right, they have an extra reason to be cunts to people like me and Richard, which is all the people Richard's talking about. Grey Khan, fucking Hellspawn, Mark Winter, formerly known as Nixon of HLT. These people were all in our peers. And I'll tell you what right now, I've never tried to hold it over these guys and be shitty to them and be like, look where you are in the industry. You book my flights. I'm the one getting paid your monthly rate in a day. I've never done that to them, but they act as though we have done that to them. Like they are mad fucking salty and sort of like, because here's the problem, guys. They all bailed like 5 years too early. Otherwise, in their mind, they could have been us maybe and had all these awesome careers or agency and mobile. And sadly, they don't, which listen, that was their choice. And in the short term, they'd even won out over us. They had the cushy jobs in the industry. They had power. They were a higher up position and status. And in the short term, they thought they won. But the problem is because in the long term, they haven't. And in fact, I can only imagine how shit their job is compared to looking at us and stuff we get to do. Unfortunately, a lot of them are like have an axe to grind. Even when you think to yourself, wasn't that like years ago? Like I'm past some of that shit, but some of it never dies with those people, I've noticed.
Nah, and I've always said,
aren't they?
It always left a mega bad taste in my mouth that not only did they stage a coup d'etat essentially to get rid of Robert Olin and then get all the money and the benefits of that. Like, that buyout was predicated on DreamHack being a wicked esports product. Who made it a wicked esports product? All of the talent and all of the production and all of the, people behind the scenes that made the show flow. How much money do you think they got when the big buyout came? I'll tell you. Exactly. Fuck all. Zero. None of us. Not even a thank you, by the way. Not even when the buyout was announced and they were all fucking high-fiving and quaffing champagne about the deal. None of them said, like, thanks for your efforts, we couldn't have done it without you. Not even that. Not even that. These people are dirtbags. And they're like the plankton in the fucking esports lake. Like, it's just going nowhere. Somehow an essential part of the ecosystem, but also in many ways just the lowest form of life in the fucking ecosystem. It's these people are disgusting. Like, I'm so sick of them. And like I said, they've let me carry that can for 5 years. Any one of them could have just, like, even now, if you just come out and go, oh yeah, I suppose we exaggerated a little bit. We were under a unique type of pressure because Twitch owned Alliance. Alliance's manager was going to Twitch and saying this had happened to the DreamHack and we didn't know what to do. And we were a little bit harsh on Richard. And that's reflected. If I was so dangerous, why was I going to esports events, DreamHack events? afterwards. They even let me back in their event. You know, nothing they say actually makes any coherent sense whatsoever. But just fuck them. I'm absolutely sick of it. Like, there's no way every time I do a piece of Dota content, I should just have to read provable lies about how I fucking swanton bombed a fucking 14-year-old Swedish Dota player at an amateur tournament through a fucking table and broke his back because, you know, I just shouldn't have to listen to it. It's just ridiculous. You know, I like say I got friends over in the Dota community. All the Dota talent are like, yeah, it's just whole thing's just fucking stupid. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. But anyway, petty grievances, file it away. Not so petty in many ways, but, you know, grievances all the same. And now we can move on. This is where you'll get to come to life and no doubt be vitriolic because we're going to talk about the ESL schedule that was announced. Obviously, you work very closely and have a creative role with Flashpoint, a league that is going to be directly impacted upon by these changes that have come out. But basically, I obtained the document a few days in advance of their announcement and got to have a look at it. I actually talked to some of the ESL guys about it, to kind of like get an understanding. But I don't know if you just want to give me your take on it initially, because now that I think it's public knowledge, right? Everyone's seen the schedule.
I think some of the information's out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, let me think how to phrase this. Right. Basically, I think when Monty looked up and did like a calculation of the numbers, I think he calculated something crazy, like that they'd taken something like 140 days or 180 days or something. I can't remember what the number was. And basically, if you looked at it, what they'd done is they'd taken something like 40% of the entire calendar just for themselves, excluding majors, which remember they can run. They would have run this major, and the associated major cycle of the minors and all the rest of it. And so just them alone was 40% before anything else is accounted for. And then so already you're basically saying, I'm making a power play for the whole scene. It's just mine. I'm going to run this scene. But then the way they phrased it, because I've seen the document itself. In the document itself, they just do the classic like Astralis approach to PR, where everything that's a negative, you go, good news. I've managed to secure you one limb for your body for the rest of your life, as opposed to saying tragic news, I have to amputate 3 limbs. Like that's the way they spin it, right? So what they do with those two angles is this. One, they try to make it sound good for teams. Like, you're going to take less flights each year. Well, that sounds great, doesn't it? Well, no, because you're doing less flights because you just spend more of your time owning at ESL events. That's their logic. Secondly, they're like, good news, more player breaks for everyone. Because now I'm just going to define every event that isn't an ESL event as a player break. By the way, implicating all of my rivals as cunts if they now don't give you all of their time to be your player break. So to me, there's the 3 main problems with this story. Is one, they're taking way too much of the calendar, and in a way that is totally irresponsible. Like, who died and made them God where they just get to decide all the dates of the year that are theirs? Like, it's either a collaborative thing or it's not. It can't be something between the two. And then secondly, they're basically implying it's a good thing that you now might spend 16 days at kind of eats here. And then thirdly, they're implying that the rest of the schedule has space for other people when it doesn't. It's the exact opposite. So to me, the disingenuous nature how they presented it was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll add as well, like, when you talk about PR, I'm always reminded about that that quote the Albanian dictator said. What is it, Enver Hoxha or Horza, however you pronounce it. And he basically was giving an address to the people, and he said, this year will be harder than last year, but the good news is it will be easier than next year.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so it's like that's
like
level.
Some an Ion fucking pick me up speech, isn't it?
Yeah, that the level of spin on that is so fucking good, isn't it? Like, I love it so much. But anyway, I mean, like, when you just look at the sheer amount of space they have taken up in this calendar, I think it's even worse than people maybe are implying, because what ESL are essentially saying in their defense is that not every team will be there. So from a burnout, like for the full event, because they'll lose and they'll drop out and they can leave early. So they're basically saying from a burnout perspective, it's absolutely fine. But what they're glossing over is the fact that no one is going to run an event on the proviso that maybe you can semi-predict which teams are going to be available while an event comes to its conclusion. And all these events are running long now. Like I can't show you the slides because it says in the document itself that it's considered the intellectual property of ESL, and they'll DMCA anyone that shows it. But what I can do is read you the dates. So tell me, guys, when a realistic competitor would ever be allowed to have, like, I don't know, a long running league or whatever. So here we go. Right. The year will start. This is 2021 with DreamHack Open Leipzig, January 22nd to 24th. So you can probably squeeze in an event early January if you're a competitor. Then there's a gap. February 15th to the 28th, you've got Katowice. And this obviously doesn't include qualifiers. These are just the LAN events themselves.
Well, listen how long that is. That's like twice as long as an old Katowice or something like that.
Yeah, and that runs like 15th to 28th. Then the ESL Pro League starts March 17th, runs right the way through to April 25th. That's now going to be taking place in Malta. While that happens as well, in early April, you have DreamHack Open Anaheim on the 2nd to the 4th, a regular sort of 2-day thing. The DreamHack events haven't been extended because they don't make money. Then the major is set to be happening in May. Early May or the 10th to the 23rd. That's the block. We don't know if that's an official date. Then you have the DreamHack Masters Summer, June 3rd to the 13th. The Masters in Cologne, July 5th to the 18th. Starting on July as well, you've got the DreamHack Open Valencia 2nd to the 4th. Then in August, you have the Masters Melbourne, August 12th to the 22nd. Then in September, the ESL Pro League Season 14 starts on the 1st of September, running the way through to October 10th. Meanwhile, on September 10th to 12th, you have the DreamHack Open Montreal. And on October 14th to the 24th, you have the Masters New York. Then you drop back down to the DreamHack Open in Rotterdam, which is October 15th to October 17th. Then you have on the DreamHack Open Hyderabad, October 29th to 31st. Then we go into the next Valve Major. That the gap is November 1st to the 14th. Straight out of the major, you have DreamHack Open Winter on November 26th to the 28th. Then you have the DreamHack Masters, the ESL Masters in China, 2nd to the 12th, which overlaps with the DreamHack Open in Madrid to the 10th to the 12th of December. And then we're back into January for DreamHack Open Leipzig. So you can see that this whole calendar, really, you're probably talking, there's like a couple of months where there's like 3 weeks free, and this obviously doesn't even factor in player break isn't evident on the calendar, or just people maybe not wanting to travel all around the fucking world because the CSPPA says burnout is the most profound issue of our times. So as you can see, that's a pretty full fucking calendar, isn't it, Duncan?
Yeah, especially because another thing that might get lost on people is even the way I phrased it doesn't sound as bad. Like if it, let's say I'll just make the number 140 days. I can't remember what it would be. Like let's say the number was 140 days. Well, that sounds like, well, it's a big deal. Then you still got 60% of the calendar. No. I don't have 60% if you spread those out the right way. What if I only get a couple of days between some of them? What if some of them have 4 days and I need 60? Like the point is that the way they've spread it out also makes it so like, where do you put your events? Like, where do you even put one in there? And remember, if you had a big event, I know right now, to be fair, that's not a consideration, but in past years, say you rented out some historic venue. You're not renting that out 2 months before. That's 6 months to a year, sometimes 2 years before. Yep. If you want like some banging one, like, like fucking Rogers Centre in Canada or something, like, you're not getting that overnight. That's where they have like the UFCs and like fucking pay-per-view sellout events. So how's anyone, it's like I said, basically when ESL went over the dates of Flashpoint, like for the end of this year, how can anyone run a business in an industry like this where you can't know when your dates are even?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't. And that's by design. I mean, let's just,
oh, they're cynical enough. Look, put it this way. It's the same as when ESL did their ESL ranking. They'll try and claim now, no, what we did is just sat down and thought what would be the most fair, and it just happens these are the results. No, they cynically sat down and created a ranking that created where the ends justify, the means justify the ends, as it were. Like,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
This is essentially, a way of kind of, and the way it's justified in the deck, You know, it's like, oh, by having more time spread out over events, we've got more time to generate hype. We have a higher quality broadcast. We have more excitement on site because we can tailor experiences. We can make specific ring entrances. And it's got all these comparisons to the UFC, like permeated throughout the deck, you know, like literally comparing like for like an esports broadcast to a UFC broadcast. But I mean, what you've ended up with as well, like they're essentially going to have a lockdown on the talent as well, because you're out there, you know, for 16 days, let's say, for one event. Well, you know, you can't, like if you run an event, even if you wanted to go head to head with ESL, you're not getting any of the talent that are at the ESL events as well. Now I can wager they're going to hire all of the big names just to make a point about that. So it does seem to me this is not schedule that is about like coexistence or particularly conducive to having what we've always talked about, which is why can't we have a circuit where everyone gets a piece of the pie and it all kind of works out? Like, how's the Blast? Like, I'm obviously not sympathetic to the Blast per se, but how's the Blast going to operate in all of this? And let's say they can, and let's say they can make it work. Well, how does anyone else fit in then? The Blast is a year-round event. They've already had to cut back prize money, you know, and they're spinning that and saying, but it's a good thing, you know. And of course it isn't. It's a bad sign for their business, especially coming so soon after they had to get rid of the Neon sponsorship. Kind of makes you realize why they were all in on the stolen land thing. But, you know, once you fit the Blast into this calendar, and I did it sort of roughly the other day. I took the Blast events and these events. Like, there is nothing. It is paper thin. You would have like maybe one or two like North American events that you could realistically fit in there on top of everything else. There's definitely no room for a sizable league or a culmination. Like, if E-League still did CS, I don't even know where it would be, given the blocks of time that used to take up.
This is why the dangerous fact to me is that Valve isn't like directly involved. Like, they're not saying, yes, ESL, we approve of the schedule. But because they are obviously giving ESL most of the majors, because ESL have been the most competent and run the most majors, that's the dangerous part. Because this reminds me of like a really old school, like philosophical point that people often made, which is the argument people used to make against like objectivists like Ayn Rand and stuff is they would say, well, what happens if you allow people to just pursue their selfish interests and then someone creates a monopoly and just owns all of, you know, like a resource in the world? And the point that she used to make, basically, which I actually agree with, is it's the other way around. The only way one man can ever like run everything and have a monopoly is with the help of the state. Because otherwise, there will always be an interest from others to deny him full control. So in this sense, my concern is this, is that Valve doesn't interject. They don't fuck around with what ESL's doing, but they give them the power to run the major, and in doing so, give them more power than any other TO. So it stops people actually properly combating ESL. Because the logical way you combat ESL is this. As you said there, the people who are in the most trouble because of this schedule is Blast. Because think about it, right? ESL's in a great spot. They're already got the most leverage, and they've got the teams in the leagues at the moment. Flashpoint has its own partner team, so we're going to play in Flashpoint no matter what. So that's already, both those parties have teams, and they're definitely going to have events. The problem with Blast is they're not exclusive, except for the exclusivity they bestow upon you by making you a partner. But you haven't bought in. Like, they can kick you out anytime, or you can leave. And then also, they're basically trying to do ESL's model, which is a massive year-long circuit. Flashpoint's only trying to do 2 tournaments. We just have to fit in 2 at some point around ESL. So the problem for Blast is they're just in a way more precarious version of ESL's situation. So in my opinion, unless Valve essentially allows ESL to just run riot, the logical solution is people have to team up against ESL, right? There has to be some sort of a counter league to them or something. Because otherwise, how does Blast even maintain, like, what is their identity? So worst version of ESL?
Well, I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Like, there's no way any of this can happen, because as the margins get tighter and tighter, you know, the Blast is going to be like, okay, well, there's no room. We can't have any alliances, or we can't give up any territory. We can't, like, have a partnership with all the other people wanting to run events out there, because if we do that and we have to give up some events for that partnership to work, we're harming our bottom line, and ESL aren't going to play nice. So what do? You know, like, I mean, what's going to happen in terms of, keep in mind as well, like the teams that have signed up to the Blast and the teams that have signed up to ESL. Well, let's say there was another new player that came in. I mean, Flashpoint, honestly, you still have to count them as a new player because they haven't even got to execute their vision yet because of the fucking pandemic, right? But what happens at a time when you're trying to get people to sign up to the league because it's a better financial deal than what's being offered by ESL? Well, it's very hard for them to agree to that now, given that there is just like so much that requires their attention. Also, keep in mind the additional component. You can only drop out of so many events that you're invited to by ESL, or you forfeit prize money. And
if you remember, they also, people forget this from last year, but what they implemented in 2020 was, because obviously we didn't have the land, so people didn't notice that. They made it so that the reason you'd go to a DreamHack is winning a DreamHack got you a spot into like the next big ESL. So they also tried to make it so that even the shittier, like, because obviously that year when Astral skipped DreamHack Masters, they were worried like DreamHack Masters is going to lose all its value. So they made the DreamHack events part of your qualification so that if you're like that team who's like 10th in the world and you're on the brink, maybe you don't get an invite to Cologne, you get in by doing a tournament. So they basically also not only like de-incentivize you from turning events down, but incentivize you to attend as many MTG events as possible. So like that isn't even an old school calendar where you can go, well, I'm not going to any of the DreamHack Opens, right? What? Maybe I'll skip Sydney. No, you can't do that. Like that ain't possible. There's also a couple of other factors. So one, this is where you see how bad people are at understanding information. Think about how ESL and every other company in esports would brag about this information. And by the way, as part of our new expanded format, we are announcing historic prize pools, increased prize money. No, they didn't mention a word about prize money. The reason why, guys, and no one else noticed this, this is how fucking stupid professional Counter-Strike players are. People who can comment on anything, by the way. They can complain about a match at 10 a.m. They can complain about whether they get Desania water or whether they were getting the fucking Sierra Springs. But not a single pro player has even tweeted, where's the prize money increase for all these extra days? They haven't even clued it in, guys. That's how dumb these guys are. Like, me and Richard literally have to tell them, like, you know, that's not actually chocolate cake you're eating, that's horse shit. And they go, bloody hell, it is. It's like, you were eating it. And you were going, seconds, please, sir. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, no one in the entire industry, go and watch those shitty podcasts that dumbasses from HLTV do. Go and tell me where they were breaking down, like, and they haven't even increased the price. No one's even noticed. That's how bad this scene is. So one, the event, good news, guys. The events are twice as long, but you don't get anything extra from it. We just gain from it, like getting our media days with you, which we will be paying you nothing for, even though that's actually something worth money. It's like that old joke that someone often makes, right? The same dickhead media people who never stop crying about how hard journalists have it turn around and go, can I please use your photo for free, even though it's obviously worth a lot of money to news media, including my literal job? Like, that's actually obnoxious that you do that, dude. Like, on the one hand, you pretend like you should get it for free, but then you make your money off it. Like, what the fuck is that? So there's another thing people haven't noticed. It also, the way they spin it as a positive that you're going to do less travel, right, is because the group stages are all going to be in like fucking Poland or Germany or whatever, right? And then you'll fly to the stadium of where the event is, right? Like, that's just a clever way of telling you, one, you're fucked if you've men here, by the way, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but Germany and Poland aren't in North America. So good luck being a North American org. And then number two, you're now going to Germany and Poland over and over again. So you know what? You know that awesome event? Oh, let's see if we can get the state. No, only like the top 6 is going to that event in fucking Brazil or in fucking Germany or whatever, like top 8, whatever their format is. Like, there's so many things in this actual article that, like, it's like what they don't say is the fucking the scandalous stuff. And then also, I saw you just brought it up there, mate. The one player I saw make any comment on this, I think I nailed him completely with what I said. I just did a subtweet about it. I just said, you can almost see the Astralis group guys' hand fucking moving when Device is talking nowadays. Give me a fucking break, Device. This motherfucker, it's unreal. And he'd be like, I've spoken to the president of Ukraine, and we believe what's happened here at Chernobyl is an avoidable mistake, but we will reinvest into the local. Like, this guy's the biggest sellout of all time. It's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, So let's do the device tweet. Like, I'm not necessarily gonna condemn him for too hard for this, but it's just stupid.
Mate, I don't want to seem like I'm going too far, but I'm
Yeah.
scared that this is like that conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney died in 1966
And got replaced by someone else.
Because I think device, something happened to him. It was about in like, I'm going to say like February of this year. Something happened and the real device left. The guy I knew was gone. Now there's just this bitch-made guy.
So he said, initial thoughts from the ESL scheduling is that it sounds great. Hopefully we don't get too stacked with all the TOs. And if that happens, I hope the teams are ready to skip more events so we can have a healthier environment. Can't wait for the next LAN, big heart. Now, the only thing I agree there is, can't wait for the next LAN. We are going to be waiting until 2021, I reckon, before we see a major one. But anyway, so he must know, like a part of his brain has to know, hopefully don't get stacked with all the other TOs. What, they're just going to down tools, are they, mate? They're just going to down tools, are they? They're just like going to not run their events anymore. Of course they're going to run their events. They're going to try and fit it in. They're going to try and squeeze it in. The Blast, by the way, which your team is also partnered to.
Yeah, I love these guys. What I love so much about Astralis is it's like they're not content for it to be implied they're pieces of shit. They like to prove it at every possible opportunity. So their logic was, everyone kept bagging on us because we were literally financially directly involved with Blast those past years. Tell you what will show that we're really not pieces of shit. Now that we're not officially financially involved with them, let's just be the biggest piece of shit turncoats and just say that they're all shit now. Like, why are you doing that device? Like, mate, you were the one skipping events for Blasts 2 years ago. That was you, Horny. You thought that was good. Now you want to attend all the ESLs when they're twice as long. You don't get any extra prize money and you have to go to Poland 5 times. Are you for real? Where's the real device? Can we get the real device out here? The one with the fucking 1 and a 3 or whatever the fuck you want. Get Devin out here.
Where's Devin?
Exactly.
Where's Devin, mate?
Device is dead. I need Devin. Get him back.
Yeah, get him back. No, but it's ridiculous, isn't it? I was going to get there, but he says obviously he hopes he doesn't get too stacked with all the other TOs. That is going to happen. It is going to get too stacked. The TOs have to, they can't just down tools and say, well, ESL are running events and players say that's good, so we just can't have any events anymore. Like, obviously, right? And this before we even get into like ones we're not even talking about, the likes of like Epicenter and people like, what are they doing in 2021? When are their events going to come up? Are they going to be CS events? By the way, all of this as well, massively precipitating people moving to Valorant and stuff like that into a much wider, open, freer space. Subject for another time. Anyway. They're saying, so he goes, and if that happens, I hope teams are ready to skip more events. Well, the events you'll have to skip are the other ones anyway, aren't they? Because who's going to skip the ESL? You are penalised for skipping the ESL events. And as you pointed out, the only team in recent memory that I can think of that has skipped out on Tier 1 events to do lesser, smaller events were Astralis, back when there was a business interest to do that, because Astralis being at a Blast tournament added value to the Blast in terms of viewership, and therefore by extension sponsors. And so you all took the hit and made up some mad thing going, if we fly in one direction, device gets sick, but if we fly in another direction, we live forever. And you know, you get Zonic to do it as well. You get fucking Zonic to tell the lies. Like, not even, like, don't send out Nicola fucking Lie home. You don't send him out, do you? Send out, no, everyone loves you, mate, Zonic. Go out. Do I have to? Yeah, just go out and tell the lies. Tell him the plane thing. Tell them how, like, device only gets sick if you go in one direction. Go on, no one cares. It's all good. The fucking Astralis fans will lap it up. So it's like, mate, you can't be the guy to say this. It's like, I don't know what goes on with players sometimes. Like there's something wrong. Like you, because he knows. Device obviously knows he did it.
That's why it's dark that they actually like people don't get it. This isn't people just naively just like buying some line. Like, these guys know that this isn't true, and they're just essentially doing the deal with the devil where they say, I'm just going to say it's not true for money. Like, put it this way, Astralis is so fucked. Like, the next strategy should be just have a member in every city in the world, and then just like one of those, that way one person doesn't travel, and then he just plays the event with the other 4. Nicola and I was probably like, bloody, pause that VOD, fucking hell, get this stuff. I was doing it as a stupid example, but at this point, it's probably their business strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, mate, like, the fucking, it's just so unreal. We haven't even, I'm just waiting. 2021, the Astralis stuff's going to be fucking delicious. Yeah, it's going to be delicious. These fucking 10-man rosters, indeed. How are the moves? How are the moves coming on that? How are the moves coming on that 10-man roster that you always dreamed of? Casper shit. How's that going, mate? Like, why aren't you making all these sick moves to sign all these free Danish, agents that are out there now? I thought you wanted a 10-man roster. I thought that was the dream. Nah, you just forgot about that. That was just something to tell shareholders and mugs in the fucking general public. No problem. Anyway, back to the CSL schedule. We'll put a pin in this one. So obviously, I'll ask you. I mean, how difficult is it going to be for a league like Flashpoint to sort of coexist with this kind of scheduling and the bigger problem, possibly I would say, is attracting teams to come into Flashpoint, given that we're now seeing with the Blast and ESL pretty much taking up. I mean, that's like 2/3 of the calendar right there, if not more. How are you guys going to continue to expand and sort of feel the benefits of bringing in better teams?
Even though I don't know if this was ESL's express consideration, I think they're just trying to take as much space as they can. This just means very likely. Put it this way: the reason why Flashpoint can always run is because, like I said, the partner teams of Flashpoint aren't the EPL teams, although some of them did play. For example, like MIBR played in that online season because it was online. You could technically play from LA, right? Aside from that, worst case scenario, we can always just directly schedule with whenever Pro League is and go head to head, and then they have their teams and we have our teams. It's just that, like you say, that means we are then precluded from having anyone who's in Pro League. Unless it's online, which hopefully it won't be. Hope it'll all be LAN next year. That would mean, we can't get any extra teams in, which is, it's one issue. I still think at the end of the day, Flashpoint has to get the players anyway. That's the main strategy, like Cloud9's doing. So it's definitely a problem. It's less a problem for Flashpoint, though, than Blast. Like I say, we only have to try and run 2 events, so we can actually just go directly head-to-head with the EPL. People like Blast are just at the mercy of ESL. And like I say, if ESL still has the major and they can fuck around with any of the dates then, if they get any wiggle room, they can just fuck someone like Blast completely, ruin an entire season.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Are there any plans? I mean, you already had the problems with fucking Valve and the major, right? So, what are you guys looking to do? I mean, are you just going to fucking just throw it down and let the chips fall where they may? Or?
I mean, listen, you know me, I'm not someone who thinks I'm not even one of the people who thinks you have to negotiate with everyone in your industry. I just say go head to head with them and beat them. So I personally hope it's fucking all out war with mutual destruction ensured.
Nice.
Listen, it's the environment I feel most comfortable in, Richard.
And I know as well, obviously there'll be people from ESL hitting me up now to sort of give me that different perspective on it or whatever.
No, Richard, what we actually meant by the words that your brain is interpreting is not what you interpret, but everything innocent, and we just accidentally fucked all of our rivals. That's the way it is every time with these.
No, but this is all I would just say to the ESL guys for the invariable conversation that's coming up, because I know they do watch this show religiously. And you know me, as I've got older, I'm a bit more pragmatic. I'm not as bloodthirsty as you, Duncan. But at the end of the day, I wish you would just be honest. Why not just say it? We are trying to fuck our rivals. Of course we are. Yeah. I can almost respect that.
Oh, by the way, I'll give you the Steelman angle to it. If you just look at how bad the business model is to be a TO, no matter who you are right now, it's totally justified. If you want to treat it like a cynical businessman and you're just about one day making a profit, you should fuck everyone if you're a TO right now. If you're the one who has the leverage to take over the scene, you should do it immediately. The problem is, as you're implying, they want to do both. They want to do that in action, but then in words, they want to say that they're the heroes and the nice guys and they're working, playing nice with everyone and everyone's welcome. But it can't be both. Because I'm with you. If you just go full NUWO and you're like, listen, I'm losing millions doing fucking events. Don't you like the events? Aren't they the best in the scene? Of course they are. So, and I can't basically lose money and give you consideration in prime real estate for me in the year. I'm going to take all the spots I need to do the best events I can do. Fuck you. If you can't compete, that's your fault. It's an open market. That would be totally justified. I wouldn't do it. I think it's fucked up, but they can do that angle if they want.
Yeah, just crazy. Right, move on. Let's talk about, get it serious for a bit. Let's do the complexity story. Because this kind of happened earlier on in the week, and I think it's a pretty big one. So for those that missed it, turned out of nowhere, Obo, their young North American player, a player who was with them pre-Juggernaut. In fact, the only surviving player from that, bad team, the one that drove Jason up the wall and caused him to make that tweet, decided that he was going to leave the squad and did it in sort of a weird way, it seems. Jason Lake said he had to call an emergency press conference. Everyone was like, well, what's going on? It turned out Obo was just leaving, and the team kind of found out when he was at the airport already to head back. He didn't sort of wait around. He just really jumped ship very quickly. And then he did put his own statement out, which sort of, clears it up a little bit. I could be a little bit more sympathetic towards him. Initially, it kind of sounded a bit dubious.
No, I'm with you though, Richard. I think there's more to this story than people saw, because that's the weird part. What you're saying now, what doesn't make sense essentially about this is the way it was dealt with. Because since Complexity has gotten all this PR and their players have only said good things about them for the last year or so, obviously people there's a really feel-good factor around the story of the team. Obo particularly, they kept him from the last lineup. He's a young guy, sort of made it through growing pains. He's had success now. Like, you would expect that of all the orgs, the person I'd be hearing this story from is directly Cole first, and it would be like this. Due to burnout and issues in perhaps his personal life, Obo has decided to step back. We agree with this move, but as you're saying, it was the other way around. It was more like, right, I'm leaving, like emergency press conference. We're gonna like, that made it sound to me, again, I have to speculate here, like he didn't tell anyone. And actually, I'm very curious about the details you said there, because that makes it actually sound quite unprofessional. Like you're just like, I'm already leaving. Because remember, this is one of the areas people don't want to hear this. This is why you don't hire 16 and 17-year-old kids to do a man's job. That's one of the reasons why. Because guess what? The man who has to learn a fucking full-time salary and has worked 10 years in his craft, he doesn't just leave overnight and just up tools and go. Like, a kid might do that. Someone who's in tough circumstances, but has never been in that situation and responds badly, maybe. Or this even sounds to me, I have to purely speculate, but I don't give a fuck. It's an opinion talk show. Get ready, guys. This is also where, if you told me, Richard, how old's Obo now? I'm going to guess now he's probably 17 now. 17, right? If you told me a 17-year-old kid who I'm going to guess comes from like a middle-class family, looks like he has a lovely family, etc. in America, the idea they might get flighty and think, oh, fuck, I've been here for too long. Oh, shit, I could be trapped there and just leave. That makes perfect sense to me. Like,
well, I mean, so he pretty much said as much. I'll read you the twit longer. It's not that long. It's one of the few twit longers I think that actually has come out good for the lads. Like, usually twit longer's a nightmare. But he said, with talks of lockdowns and chaos returning to the UK and no end in sight, I was not comfortable being so far away from home during a volatile time. I never expected to live on a European team. It was one hell of a year, but I couldn't handle it anymore. I gave it my absolute all, but I underestimated how much I valued having time somewhere that feels like home. I've been overseas and navigating Europe through a pandemic for the majority of the year, and at some point it had to stop. Going and living in Europe for extended periods of time is never a problem for me. The problem was on this team, it felt never ending. With all the unrest in the UK and the whole world currently, I had to make a decision I know is right. With that aside, I would like to thank Complexity for everything they've done for me, especially Jason Lake, who gave me my first shot to play for a professional team. Competing under his legendary organization has been an incredible life-changing experience. Thanks for the opportunity. To all the Complexity fans, you're absolutely amazing, and thank you for the continued support during my journey. As for my future, I fully intend to get back to competing for the right team as soon as the opportunity arrives. So, like, when you frame it like that, I mean, listen, it is a weird time, and I think probably what happened, reading between the lines and the way it went down, is there was a news report the day before, where Boris Johnson was talking about travel lockdowns again and a spike in COVID cases leading to, like, the kind of lockdowns we've got at the moment in Birmingham, where you can't have visitors over and neighbors can't gather, and it's getting pretty crazy again. And I think he just thought, like, I'm never going to get to go back home at this rate. I'll never, when am I next going to see my mother? When am I next going to see my friends? And he just thought, you know what? Nah, I've done it for a year. I can't do it anymore. And he just, like, said, he told the team, I want to go back. And they've said, all right, we'll work it out for you. And he's just gone and booked a flight himself and fucked off.
That last part's the only part, like I say, I have an issue with. By the way, I totally understand the idea of, like, imagine being that young away. You think you're going for a boot camp for like 2 events, and you're just there the whole fucking year. You can never escape. Like, even though it's not true, the media is going to present all these ideas like it's going to get way worse, the world's going to be even worse. Like at that point in time, yeah, you're just going to think, fuck it, maybe there is no career for me in 5 years. It's going home now. I get that part.
And it's really weird as well, because I saw a lot of people going, oh, it must be that he's going to Cloud9. How would that work, you fucking dickheads? They're going to be a European team, essentially. They're going to move to America when they're able to, but for now they'll be competing in Europe. So loads of people were like saying, "Oh, he's had nothing from Cloud9. He's bailing. It's a money thing." And
no, there's nothing to do with that, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, well, I'd be very surprised, put it this way, to see him turn up in a team like, because it would make a mockery of everything he said. He'd look like a right little cunt if he ended up going back to America for a little bit and then, oh, I'm off to Cloud9, but they need me to play in Europe. Get me back in Europe, guys. Like, you can't style it out at that point. So the question becomes, where would he go? And unfortunately, I think Obo's a player good enough that had the Liquid move not happened as soon as it did, I think he could have even had a shot that far up the food chain. I think he's a really talented player. But the problem you've got now is that Evil Geniuses aren't going to change anything. Liquid aren't going to change anything. So he's not going to get on the big two. Obviously, Cloud9 are going European, and even if they were going to have an American player, it wouldn't work for him because he'd have to be in Europe again, which he's made clear he doesn't want to do. So suddenly you're talking about teams like Gen G. And, they've just lost an in-game leader, right? So, to be fair, they were playing with an absolute fucking nobody as like a stand-in for their games, giving him a trial. So Obo's obviously a step up, but I don't really know where the kid's gonna go. It's not a great time to be kind of a free agent in North America.
Oh, there's no good team. Let's be real. Like you say, Gen G's the best case scenario. Other than that, who the fuck are you joining? Like old Cloud9,
maybe Chaos
up sticks together and goes somewhere. Again, yeah, talking like Envy. We're sort of digging fucking deep to get the teams in. Yeah, they're not top teams, are they? So at that point, then again, though, I don't. By the way, I totally fuck with the idea like you didn't want to stay in Europe and all that. Yeah, that's fine. No issue with that.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, like, the reason I say that it's a bad time. In particular, is like we don't even know what's going on with the North American scene. I don't know if North America has a scene in 2021 the way things are going, because we're coming out of an online era that's got like the coaching problems we've seen, but also as well like and people don't believe me when I say this. I don't know why, but I've seen people arguing the toss over this, and it's like, okay, I'll try and lay it out as simply as I can. If you are, let's say there's a tier list of skill, right, in CS, and let's say you are at the level that would be commonly referred to as dog shit, okay? If you are a dog shit player in CS, you cannot make a salary right now, or you get a very, very small one, a token one, right? But if you move over to Valorant, equivalent to the level of dog shit, right? I'm not saying you're dog shit at Valorant, I'm just saying you are moving from being dog shit in CS over to Valorant, you suddenly make money in NA, because for some reason NA orgs have placed a value on Valorant that the European ecosystem isn't doing.
By the way, there's one of those areas where it's one of the beautiful, like almost like fucking poetic justices of esports is whatever you brag about when it does work for you, when that no longer works for you, will be what makes you look like an absolute dickhead. So there were years and years, you know this, Rich, where American esports orgs didn't seem to appreciate, well, the reason why I'm killing it is I've got the American market. They were like, oh, we're just better at business than you guys over there in Europe. We're just bloody, look at my enormous Intel sponsor. Why doesn't your Intel Italy sponsorship match up to mine for all of the United States? And it's like, mate, like, this is the most obnoxious, like, I'll use the term because it's accurate, privileged fucking like position, but you're just like blind to it. You think you're just better than them. Well, the irony is this. Here's a game that had no basis whatsoever to have inflated salaries, Valorant. And the same dickhead owners who in CSGO complain about the salary inflation instantly pumped the market up for no reason when it was in beta. Like, these guys can't be helped. Like, they're their own worst enemy. Holy shit, guys. If there was ever a time, like I talked about on those past episodes, to be the opposite type of cunt and be like, let's have a cartel and fucking lock them down, that was it. The idea you guys have pumped it up already with no scene is so stupid, it's unbelievable. And now you're going to kill your own CS teams because you've done that. Well done, guys. Let's pay. I tell you what, guys, being as we're all losing millions running CS teams, what about if I just pay your tier 3 NA CSGO players tier 1 CSGO money to play Valorant for me? Well, that's a brilliant idea. Like this is like the dumbest Trading Places movie premise I've ever seen. It's just stupid.
Well, I mean, so I'm not saying necessarily that like these players who were moving from the dog shit tier to Valorant are getting like tier 1 CS money.
No, but I've heard some crazy numbers for some.
But there
like,
are some
people,
what Wardell is making a mint, you know, and that's all you really need to know about the disparity. I would say right there. This is a guy that like, you know, he was a journeyman in North American CS, and finally gets a team where things look to be going reasonably well. And from what I heard, his attitude still stank as a teammate. And now he's, you know, the big lad playing over at TSM, making a fortune. You know, you go on Reddit, you see advertisements dropping his name, promoting stuff. It's like, okay, fine. But that tells you all you need to know right there about the disparity and how much of a fucking washed up cunt you can be in CS and how much money you can still make in Valorant. And remember, there's barely a scene over there yet. You know, it's the occasional tournament, it's the occasional invite tournament. We're in the very early stages, and yet some of these players are making money that, like, you would think this was a seasoned esport with a franchise league and, you know, huge sponsorship and huge numbers. I mean, to put it into context, everyone was high-fiving about Valorant achieving at the FaZe Invitational 170 or 180,000 peak concurrent viewers, right? Well, shit, we just done that in an ESL Pro League game. Do you know what I mean? We just did 171 for fucking 100 Thieves Furia, and yet Nadeshot thinks he's got a dog shit CS team and wants to put all of his fucking, you know, weight behind the Valorant squad. So I don't know, mate. North American owners, they're a fucking mystery to me, and always have been.
Just follow each other as well. It's just the blind leading the blind, isn't it? They're all. Here's the thing, right? I'm not joking, guys. These owners are the most ridiculous capitalists you've ever seen. As in, they all just sit around going like the equivalent of like fucking country club rooms, going, "What are you buying into at the moment, Smith?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to get in a Valorant." Yes, me too. Get me a Valorant team immediately. Like that's like the level these fucking clowns are on. They're not doing their due diligence. They're just all following each other. Like Valorant, the hot new thing. Like that's why they all got in that insane furore about CDL. I kept looking into it, like, am I missing? Was there a story? Was there like something that you know Blizzard promised? I kept looking, I could never find it. It's just that they all hyped each other. They all just like were selling. Listen, this is going to be everything that Overwatch League wasn't. Like, we're going to have control now. Blizzard said it's good. Like, you guys just got sold on a fucking dream the second time in a row. That's like, these guys are so stupid. They were like, listen, the first batch he sold was snake oil, but the new one is fucking amazing. Like, it's the same guy. And the joke would be...
We milked so many snakes for this batch.
Oh, no, mate, the joke would be, it'd be like that Simpsons one where it was all the Duff Bay just came out of one pipe, but it just split off and said like Dust Frosted or just for wee ladies or whatever. Like, it's like the same shit with Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, no, it is wild. So I don't understand it, but I mean that's what's going on in NA at the moment. And when you factor in, be prepared for the MDL match fixing stuff to come out and impugn some of these names. And I'll tell you this, like I was ruminating on this the other day. A lot of people are going, well, Riot won't want a bunch of match fixers coming into their game. Imagine what that would say. They'll probably give them bans. Haha, that will serve them right.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you think about it. Obviously, what works out great for Riot is not only do the CS people move across, if the people who move across to play Valorant have no way to ever go back to CS, regardless of the fucking status of the game, you've locked them in. So I imagine what will probably happen is, like, Riot will come out, and also, the fact that they're owned by a Chinese company, you might want to not talk about match fixing too much. Just a bit of advice for you. But yeah, they'll probably come out and release a blanket statement that we don't approve of such behavior. However, we also believe in fresh starts. Unless, of course, you're a League of Legends pro who typed something once in a public game or insulted someone who made a skin, in which case we'll ban you for a year and never allow you to go professional. But yeah, man, I mean, like, the NA scene is a fucking mess right now. And as I said, I don't even know if the NA scene has a scene in 2021. I mean, like, once again, I look at all of the forces that are, like, harming Counter-Strike, and it's the same offenders. It's the owners that aren't invested in CS because they don't come from that world. It's the match fixers. It's the gambling freaks, the skins freaks. Like all the, it's the clout chasers. It's all the usual cunts. like just gonna, burn the game out in North America. So it will most likely be a European preserve plus like Team Liquid and Evil Geniuses in 2021 at this rate. It's completely ridiculous. Anyway, the other story I wanted to talk about, because we got to get them in or it wouldn't be an episode of By the Numbers. MIBR. They've done it again. They've given me 2 things to talk about on By the Numbers. They can't help themselves. So, Dead denies wrongdoing. You can't fucking believe it, can you? You can't fucking believe it!
It's mental, isn't it? I know.
Dead denies wrongdoing in spectator bug cases. I've never done anything to compromise the integrity of the game, he said in a Twitlonger post. Mate.
In a mad way, I sort of respect the gall of the man. Like the idea, he's just like, it's like, if you ever hear those stories about Steve Jobs, they use this term where they call like the reality distortion field, where the logic was Steve Jobs really would just believe, like in all of his heart, that something was true. Even if like every engineer was like, look, that can only be done in like 10 months or something, he'd go 2 months or you're fired. Like, and he would just make people just go, even though that's not the reality, I'm just going to have to live in that world. Like, they would all just, like, distort their own brain and go, that's just the reality. So, like, that's what Dead's just like, nah, wasn't me. Didn't do nothing. Wasn't me, bruv. It's like, bro. Also, look, here's video of you. Nah, it's not me. That's someone who looks like me, but not me. It's like, give me a break.
Right, but anyway, yeah. The absolute audacity to say I've never done anything. These 2 words are the key, the genius of the statement. Never implying never, right? Like as in not at all, right? And anything being literally anything. So he's never cheated. He's been convicted of cheating and has admitted to it, but is now denying it, saying he didn't relay the information. There's video footage of him doing it. He also tried to edit the video deceptively, which he put out to make it look like he hadn't done it, because if he'd played the full video, not only would it have shown him looking at people while they were running around, he also lied about it, saying, I hadn't loaded into the game. You had.
And he showed a different game initially, even though the initial thing said a different match. So, yeah, he went out of his way to be at least disingenuous.
But also,
directly dishonest.
Even though I know he's not talking about this would also imply, you've never played against a team that maybe you co-own? That is essentially, your academy side. That never happened, did it? Okay, never done anything. You weren't caught on video on a stream sniping in an event that was essentially all agreed upon by all parties involved, that this would be a major scandal and teams would be banned from multiple tournaments for engaging in stream sniping. So we all just agree that, listen, don't do that again. You weren't doing it, were you not?
You're just going to pull your track. That could be watching anything there. Whoever that guy is, not me.
Unbelievable.
Could be any stream.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I would also say as well, threatening to kill another pro player, that you can argue that compromises the integrity of the game. If that player's nervous about playing you or going to a tournament and you're going to be there, that's a bit more abstract. But just the idea that you're going to say, I've never done anything to compromise the integrity of the game. Well, I can't wait for tomorrow. When the fucking report drops, I'm going to be going through that with a fine-tooth comb, Duncan.
Does it definitely come out tomorrow, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's going to be out tomorrow.
But it's not everyone listed, though, right? It's just like the first batch or some shit.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think there's too many. So it's going to be out 10 a.m. Eastern time, I think it is. Or it might be European. I always get mixed up. But anyway, it's out. It's going to be out in the morning. I'm getting up bright and early. Can't wait. So, the madness of it all. Like,
the shamelessness is the crazy part.
Because he's been banned. We know that. They've already said he's been banned. So, like, I don't even get it. Like, I don't even get it. But look, this isn't even the maddest part, right? Did you see the video that MIBR put out?
I watched part of it.
Did you vomit on yourself?
It was basically just the guy, like REC or whatever, just doing like corporate speak of like, we appreciate what we built here at MIBR and what you fans deserve.
Right.
And it's like just one of those ones, like fucking classic corporate speak. It
No,
was
but
not a bunch of nonsense though. He was just talking in circles about nothing.
this is like
It's the most empty words of all time.
No, but it's like a fucking hypnosis video or something. Like, it's like a Darren Brown exercise.
He never gets to any point put out where he just talks around like just nonsense platitudes, doesn't he?
Right. Well, so let me tell you why. It shows no pride over at that organisation. Finally, by the way, one of the supposed adults has actually come forward and done like a video trying to explain stuff while you've let the lunatics run the fucking asylum for 2 years, right? But then, like, he sat there going, right, we've got so much to tell you about here at MIBR, and this is why we brought the brand back. We thought it was super exciting. He then thanks the players and dead. He thanks them. He thanks them. What are you thanking? Do you even know what they've done to your brand? You stupid cunt. Like, are you fucking serious, mate? Are you having a bubble? I can't fucking get my head around it, right? This guy's like a multi-millionaire fucking businessman, apparently. Okay. Right, well, I'm just a dickhead from the Northeast, like, so let me just assess, right? Like, what's on it? You're thanking people for fucking tanking a brand that you paid good money for. What are you thanking Taco for? Being a dog shit player and moaning on Twitter and making an absolute embarrassment of himself and by extension your brand? Are you thanking Fur for fucking making a mockery of your Black Lives Matter statement just 2 days later when he uttered racial statements and continues to this day to utter homophobic statements which he's never been penalised for? You're thanking him for that. Right? And the maddening thing of it all, you don't even mention that Dead cheated and would have had to have gone anyway. We gloss over that. We'd like to thank Dead. What, for cheating? You want to thank him for cheating and getting your regional major ranking points reset? Fucking hell. Next time, just put a video of you and those fucking guys in MIBR and just you fucking circus sealing all of them. You fucking absolute joke. Like, where's your pride? Where's your fucking pride, mate? It's an absolute joke. They have took your brand, they've took all that money, and you've got literally zero to show for it. Not figuratively, literally. You're not. If the major was happening, if COVID didn't exist, you wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be there. You would have lost all of that revenue, all of that sponsorship opportunity. Like, it sickens me. Like, what have these guys got? Have they got a sex tape on this dude? I can't fucking wrap my head around it. Because I'd be angry. I'm angry as a passive bystander. And then, after that, we don't mention Fallen neither. Mate, have you forgotten that the kingpin in this absolute farce that you call a team just bailed on you the minute you cut those players that you're thanking on the way out? You're not going to address that to the fans. KNG has essentially benched himself and disappeared into the Corral Hole Vortex, as it's known. And you've got this other young player who's just like, he's the last man standing. Your team's a shambles, mate. You've glossed over everything. What an absolute farce! Like, I have never in all my years in esports, by the way, seen like this. This is bullshit. That make, like, I've just never seen nothing like this. I've never seen nothing like this, Duncan.
No, mate. Even Astralis is watching this going, so we don't even have to address any of the points. Fucking hell, we've got a lot to learn from these guys. Where were we even bringing up the bad stuff and spinning it? Just don't even address it. Genius. So no, like, first of all, I will just say as an aside. Some would say that's always been one of the problems with the MIBR org. Conspicuous lack of pride. See what I did there? Yeah. 23 plus 1, whatever. Like, the other thing is, this is the other angle to say, which is one of the reasons, this might sound like a roundabout way to say it, but I'll explain it like this. Here's my analogy. One of the reasons I know that people like TSM, the org, know that their fans are pure shit is that they never make any attempt to chastise their fans or encourage different behavior. And I'll tell you, this is speculation. I won't claim to know what this is a real thing, but put it this way, back when we were friendly for like a year or so, if I'd have had a private conversation with Reginald and just said, come on, mate, you know there's a lot of wankers in your fan base. He would just say, yeah, of course there is, but, you know, you just use them, don't you? You just sort of like make it seem like you sort of agree with them, but you don't tacitly like condone what they do. You don't talk against them, but you let them think that they're your fan base, and then you essentially just hope that the rest of them are cool and it's just a few bad apples, right?
Yeah.
Think about the same logic, right? Think how bad MIBR, the org themselves, gauge Brazilian fans as a general fan base to be, that they not only can't address objectively fucked up things that their players have done. By the way, any normal fan base would want you to address those things, to feel confident being a fan of your org. Like, right, well, listen, I love following the player, but I agree, that's fucked up what he said about that player cheating. So I'm glad you've disciplined him because now I feel safe as a fan. No. What MIBR, this is the bigotry of low expectations. They themselves seem to think and understand what I agree with, that Brazilian fans overwhelmingly of their fan base are so shit that if you even address the obviously fucked up things their favourite players have done, they'll quit being your fans. In the same way as the second you cut one of the bad players from their lineup, the rest of the players will turn on you and betray you. Like, that's now an endemic, like, rotten to the core ethos of the people who are around MIBR. It's crazy. Like, you've actually somehow, those fans and those players, perfect matchup. The overlap is amazing now, which is amazing because, like I've told you, when I first ran into those guys in 2016, that was what actually made an impact on me, realizing, oh, wait, them and their fans are actually completely separate entities. There's no difference now. It's the same people. The overlap is like the Venn diagram's a circle on a circle of the same size. Just a bunch of wankers who constantly double down on homophobic shit, constantly blur the edge of racial like invective, repeatedly break rules that no one else would be allowed to break, and get away with all of it, all at the same time.
No, it's insane, and I don't even know what to say about this. Like, I used to mock them when it was like, you know, Immortals and Noah Winston had fucking come out and do his little like, hi, Noah Winston here, doing another video. But like, at least he communicated with people. At least there seemed to be some sort of like moral principle behind a lot of what he did. Like when KNG had his meltdown, he seemed to be the only person. DreamHack as well, of course, never issued any punishment for that person. They really do care. They really do care about safety at their events so much that they'll tell provable lies about me publicly, but won't say anything about the KNG event at all.
Remember, and listen, I know it's the internet, so technically tweets don't count this way, but let's just treat it for a second like a statement that a person made, that he essentially literally threatened someone's life. Mm-hmm. By that alone, that is a crime. Again, it probably wouldn't be on Twitter with the way it works. I'm sure it's very contentious to what counts and what doesn't. But technically, in real life, that alone would be mandate to at least ban the guy from the event, to at least make a public statement. It's like you're saying, by the fact that that was only like 2 years later, that is conspicuous in the lack of statement by DreamHack for that. And again, all you clout chasers out there in the scene, if you're just cool with that, go fuck yourself. What, you're not even going to pressure those guys to never ever have to address it. No, that's a disgrace.
Well, they know, and they never have, and they never will. And basically, you know, that player is allowed to go to DreamHack events, go to all the MTG events, go to all. He never suffered any penalties. This is what's mind blowing to me. Like, people seem to think like me and Duncan were like, oh, well, we were like instrumental in getting him banned, that we were like pulling the fucking strings and all of this. It's like, no, it was his own mouth. And understand, all he had to do was shut the fuck up. He suffered 0 penalties for threatening to kill someone and then actively trying to go and assault that player at an esports event. Like, it's like I said in my article, you know, they're like the entourage around the Brazilian guys punching another player in the face at an after party before the finals even been played at a Valve event at a major. Like, there are no consequences. Like, there are no consequences. Players can do what the fuck they want. Whatever you do, though, don't be a broadcast talent. Never have tweeted anything that's a little bit contentious, or you will be eating shit for the rest of your life. It is fucking mental, the double standard in esports. And as
also,
I said,
you know what? I'm never ever going to let anyone from Brazil gaslight me, and because they always go with this whack angle of like, no, you're it's always the one who seems like they're not the total cunt, Richard. They're like, no, listen, Richard, I understand you're not a native Portuguese speaker, so I'd just like to let you know that actually, when they said they would, that's actually just a light cultural reference that doesn't actually have anything to do with a violation of a sexual nature. Like, You're always lying. Why are you always lying?
No, but I had a person like that today.
Remember, I had this with the Russians as well, where they were trying to clear it. No, that word doesn't mean that. It's like, it does. I've got Russian people just telling me it straight to my face. Like, it's obviously true. Stop lying about shit.
No, it's just bonkers. Like I say, this just shows, by the way, like the org, like you say, they completely co-sign all of the fans' bad behavior, all of the players' bad behavior. Like, they're just completely on board with it. They're thanking them on the way out.
Also, what
hell?
level of cockery is going on in MIBR? They're straight disrespecting you to your face, and you're like, thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. Like,
yeah,
what is this?
Mental, isn't it? Mental. So anyway, we can move past MIBR now. There was another story. Hang on.
Every brief mention of them this episode.
I know. It's pretty easy to skirt through. While we're doing Brazil, I don't know if you saw, but AbleJ announced his retirement from competitive play, which is, you know, kind of I don't know. He did. A lot of people seem to.
Shall I drop dime here, Richard? Because here's the way I've always operated this show. Because we've never actually technically been strict about this. My logic goes like this. My principles in esports work this way. I will never reveal anything told to me confidentially by that person because I've agreed that's confidential and therefore they go. But if someone tells me something that wasn't told to me like that and just came to me in the industry, I have no problem saying it. Like, I'm not betraying anyone's confidence. I'll just say this right now. I heard the only reason that guy got benched and is not playing now was something along the lines of, like, I think he had a fuck up with a visa or something went wrong like that, and he basically, like, couldn't travel to the US, which I think you have to be able to do to be in a team like Furia. So as far as I know, I think he's just fucked with his career. That he just can't have a career anymore.
Well,
that's what I heard, at least.
That's that's a shame if it's true.
Yeah, it sounds tragic if it's a case.
Well, I saw a lot of people like wrongly attributing.
I don't know if that's out in the Brazilian scene or anything, but I know I've never heard about it in any of the podcasts or anything.
Yeah. So I mean, like there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's that 5-year contract coming back to haunt him." It
could also be a factor, yeah.
No, but like that doesn't make sense, right? Because he did go on loan. He was at that W7M team.
Oh, okay.
So he was already playing another team. Like, yeah, he was still owned by Furia, but Furia weren't like holding him on the bench, waiting for a buyout. They did let him go and play for other teams. So I don't buy this idea that the 5-year contract was necessarily like a big stipulation. I don't think, I didn't hear anything that like Furia were like being super mean, holding him to the buyout or whatever, weren't letting him play in other teams. He could have gone and had a competitive career if he wanted to. But yeah, it just seems weird that it kind of come out of the blue. I mean, Fury obviously hold no ill will towards him because he's come up there doing some streaming house fucking content thing, and they brought him back as one of the guys. So, to be part of that. So it doesn't seem to be acrimonious in any way, shape, or form. I mean, let's also be real. Like, after AbleJ bounced out the team.
Oh, they got better.
They got better. Like,
yeah, exactly. Why would you have any hard feels against him?
Yeah. So... just putting that out there. But I wondered why, because he's not old or whatever. He's like fucking 21. So it strikes me like another one of those weird retirements where he's still going to play and he'll still be back. Oh, I'd probably be in fucking Valorant these days.
Could be. Again, I can't corroborate that story, but it's just something I heard that somewhat makes sense, right? Because he did just disappear in a little fucking black hole.
Yeah, that's fair. So there was that, and then hang on, there's one other story here. Sorry, I keep alt-tabbing out and getting my other document. Yeah, that was it. Fifth Lauren.
I actually wait a second. Let me think. Shall I drop another dime, another jewel for you?
Yeah, go on.
So again, the reason I dropped this jewel is, like I say, it follows the same criteria. It wasn't told it directly by the individual. I was told through methods where I in no way compromise myself by explaining it. Here's one that's juicy for you, because I saw it's on everyone's mind. So obviously, with all that shit where it was the big story of last year, LXEB leaves Ents, kicked rather, and then they don't recruit an in-game leader, then Alo initially does the role not very well, and then so recently, right, there was an interview where, first of all, because LXEB is just a professional in ways that actually people like Alo will never understand, he has never dissed them publicly. He once on Blast early in the year said something along the lines of like, I did notice they did like a bunch of my tactics from Spawn, so they kept some of the same stuff. That's about it. Aside from that, I can tell you this guy has gone out of his way to not do interviews about the end situation because he doesn't want it to be like, he doesn't want it to be like him versus them or like fuck everyone who's my ex-teammates. Like, yes, certain people he maybe doesn't get along with or had a contentious relationship with. The rest of them, he has no ill will and just wants to get on with his career. I'll tell you a piece of info I heard because I saw it recently that Alo did an interview, I think in Finish, where he also just again like had to do that thing that people just feel compelled to do now, Richard, where even though it was obviously a mistake and anyone with even a slight amount of sense would say, I'd handle it differently if I was there now. He had to double down and be like, I don't regret kicking AlexeB. It's like, well, no, you just sound stupid, mate. So I'll just drop some dime. If he's going to go out there and be that kind of person, here's a little piece of info that came to me. I was told the reason why AlexeB didn't get into FaZe Clan is good old boy Alu just told Nico, like, yeah, don't play with that guy's shit in game leader. So good old Nico listened, used his brain and just completely listened to what a fucking Orpa told him one time. So there you go. There's a little gem for you.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm glad you brought it up because
that Nico guy never has any power, but everything just fucking skews around his massive bread-shaped head.
He has got a bread-shaped head.
Exactly.
But listen, like, so I did see that interview, and I was like, this can't be like.
Why did you even say it?
No, but like, so I like Arlo. I think.
He's a cool guy. Yeah, I don't have any problems with him as a person. I'm just saying it's a shitty behavior if it's true. Again, rumor.
But when he said like in that interview that like they don't regret it, and the reason that they went so far backwards and started losing was because of negative pressure from the media and fans and high expectations. It's like, mate, like come on, like just take it from me. Someone who's worked in both PR and journalism and understands both sides of the coin. Like I know how a PR statement will play out in the press, right, and will play out in the eyes of fans. Right, there were no expectations from fans. Like you were already way above expectations. Everyone loved you. Easy for Ents. You had all the memes. You were like the favorite team of like Reddit in the scene. Basically, Ents were a team that like whoever you supported. You supported Ents as well, didn't you? Of course you did. Good to watch, great tactically, always felt like an underdog, but actually, we're winning all these series and just kept defying expectations. Great run at the major, like, just loads of stuff to like. The idea that your fans were applying like pressure to you guys is sort of insane. Like it just.
I was after the move, if anything.
Yeah.
The only time I saw them ever get hit was when they kicked him, and then they had enough bad events for Sonny that everyone was like, "Where the fuck's AlexeB?" It's the opposite. He's like retconned the whole history there.
Yeah, because like you're right. Like there's definitely a big expectation increase if you kick an IGL, and basically on the basis that. We're not at our full level yet because and it's this guy that's holding us back. That's what you're essentially saying when you remove a player. So, yes, expectations go up because what you're saying there is we, the players with all of the knowledge that the fans don't have, we know what the problem is, and the problem was AlexeB. We've replaced him. The only way is up now. That is the tacit statement when you remove a player. But, mate, not only did you not go up, do you remember that fucking, it wasn't even ancient history. Do you remember when they played MIBR in that series and they'd both been on wretched runs and it was like the two worst teams in top tier Counterstrike for form were coming up against each other and everyone was like, can the fucking loser of this game just disband permanently? That's how bad it got. You were being compared to fucking MIBR. That's how bad it had got for Ents. You went from being the second best team in the world to being compared to burnt out MIBR. That's where you were at. So let me tell you, at that point as well, fans' expectations were so low. They were like, just disband, please. But then also as well, pressure from the media. It don't work like that in esports. This ain't like football or nothing. This ain't like American sports where the media are like every week there's a fucking story in a magazine or on ESPN with circulations, millions, and like, getting the fans on your back. Like, why won't they fire Bill Belichick? When will Tom Brady be removed? And all this. Mate, you don't read those stories in esports. What are you talking about? Barely anyone has the fucking sack to write a negative piece about a player in any esport. Because you know what'll happen? All the fucking stupid fans will fucking attack that person and say, why are you bullying him? This is bullying. No, it's how the fucking world works. I write about the job, and if they're shit at the job, I write about why they're shit at their job. That's the game. That's the industry, you fucking morons. But yeah, they get up. So don't tell me negative pressure from the media was a factor. They don't even exist in this business.
Mate,
what are you talking about?
So bad in esports that, like, no joke. This is even real, but I'll give a hyperbole version. You could be like, we have to get this guy out of esports because he's murdered 5 people. They'd be like, you can at least be respectful as you say it. It's like
innocent till proven guilty, which is a good point. But look, it just
not a very popular one anymore. But
no, turns out absolutely not.
Well, we've got some really weird fringe opinions in 2020, haven't we, Richard? Like, due process, probably a good thing. Maybe just live peacefully and just express your opinions with words only. Also, I've become a real revolutionary in my old age.
We're gonna have to end the podcast. You're too bigoted for me, Duncan. I can't deal with it, mate. But yeah, honestly, I was almost disappointed when I saw that interview because it's like, first of all, what are you even flaring it up for? It's old news.
Exactly.
Let that one be water under the bridge. Like, you fucked up. You cut a good in-game leader.
That's what makes you think he doesn't have self-awareness. That he's like, it's like KNG, where every time he was out and people finally were letting it go. And by the way, I'd just like to say, I definitely don't apologize for that. It's like, why are you bringing it up again? Like,
I know.
Just let it go. Like, Alan was like, has everyone stopped hating on us about the Axie Beam? We're like, yeah, generally people just associate him with OG now, and he's got his own issues over there. Right, watch this. I'd just like to say, that one move I did that, irrevocably has altered the history of the entire org. We've never been anything close to as good before. Even though I have no reason to say this, and in fact, due to a global pandemic, actually, this year, we probably would have been given a break. I'd like to just reiterate that I doubled down, and if possible, would do it again. All right.
I regret nothing. I know. I regret nothing. It's so mental. I just can't deal with it. But has that quote ever been used in like a positive light? It just hasn't, has it? Anyway, there's one other thing, and then we'll just get to the viewer questions because I know it's getting late for you. I didn't want to keep you too long. I know people have been jacked up on the idea of this show, and it's probably been a bit of a damp squib by.
I give him a couple of gems.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, dropping dimes for no reason.
Because here's the thing: what Nico's made me realize is this. I know this is going to sound mad, and no pro player will publicly back us up on this, mate. The amount of stories we don't tell that we have on these guys, we've hinted at them, but the amount that we don't tell, when by the way, we'd be totally justified by how some of them have behaved towards us, is mental. So I'm not saying we're going to drop them all, but every now and then, ones like that, where it's like, I've essentially just protected you from being saw as a twat for what you probably did. I might just sprinkle some of those in from now on, since you're all just going to fuck with me. So you know what? How about I open my nuclear silo device, Nico, and all the fucking big-headed cunts out there? Because you know what? There's no HLTV medal in the world blocks the shit I say when people know I just tell the truth. So buckle up. See, you know what? You thought this was war. This was fucking fun and games. Well, we can have war if you want. We'll end the episode with declaration of war.
I know. Duncan Thorin Shields declares war on people.
All pro players to ever exist.
No, for me, I'm not that extreme. There'll be a time to tell all the wicked stories and the not so wicked stories somewhere down the line. 10 years to a speaking tour, write a book, like whatever it is. But it ain't today. Like, I think everyone, listen, to link it to the start of the show with the Hellspawn stuff, like that can sit on a shelf for me. Yeah, you're a cunt, but not everyone needs to know that you're a cunt all of the time. Like, and I've eaten a pretty hefty plate of shit for 5 fucking years, and I'm just tired of doing it. I'm just not gonna do it.
I get it.
Let's talk about the accusers. Let's talk about the liars. Like, I'll do that. But the bottom line is, like, when it comes to the players and stuff, yeah, at the end of the day, a lot of them are just kids, and they haven't had a life. They've gone literally from being like school to being like pros, and you can't expect them to have any sense of perspective. You look back in with them when they're like 24, 25, and they're like, oh yeah, I was a bit of a cunt. That's what always happens in my experience. So I'll let them be those dickheads. Like, I bet you were an arsehole at fucking 18 to 21. I know I was. And I have the benefit, fortunately, of none of it being recorded anyway. So the only person who brings it up is me.
Oh no, but that's the problem. Also, is like put it this way: I'm not implying I'm going to do some cancel culture thing, get them fired. Of course not. But what I mean is, like, the problem is there's no in between, which is basically where if you talk shit, someone comes along and fucks you up on some level. That could be verbally. If you do it in person, as we discussed earlier, that could be in person. That could happen to you. The problem is, there's a lot of young men who are in a position now where they don't ever sort of run into like consequences that basically would build their character. Like in this scenario, think about it. Like, mate, in real sports, the reason this doesn't exist is you can't be a 17-year-old soccer star and be talking shit like that. Some guy will put you straight in your place first day on the job. At some veteran player will just take you to one side. Some manager, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and sort you out. Like, I do feel like I know I can't be the person who does it because I'm not really the ideal role, but you know, on some level, that is something I do when I fuck with these pro players. I just sort of show them, look, we're living in a fucking, this is like Willy Wonka's factory in here, boys. Like, this isn't real life. Like, if you think this is the way it's going to work when you go out and start a business or go to a company, you're in for a bad shock. So if I have to be the first person to show you that, like, guess what? People have got shit on you. They'll fucking fire off when you fire off. Like, you're going to have to learn the hard way there.
Yeah, and like I say, that's why I try not to do. I've tried to phase it out of my life. Like, I try not to dunk on people so much now on social media, but occasionally, like, and certainly not fellow like professionals or colleagues, but occasionally there's you just see some like people like I'm sick of this idea that just because you're anonymous like on the internet, like, you just, like, it's wrong of me to, like, highlight your stupidity. I've even been thinking about making a series where it's just, like, I'm just going to pick all of the morons on Reddit and just be like, this is the user, these are their opinions, these are the other subreddits they post in, this is the shit they say on other topics, and this is why you can discount anything they say. I mean, you'll still never know who these people are. You'll still never know who they are. It's not like doxing them or whatever. But this idea that I can't even link to a fucking dumb Reddit comment on Twitter, or like, well, we got to ban all his content from the internet because he's harassing people. It's like, no, like, if you're putting an opinion on the internet, that opinion gets to be scrutinized. That's life.
Put it this way, I'll give you the best example, because I agree. That's another reason why I knew, by the way, I knew on an intuitive level, obviously, I mean, that those Reddit mods were corrupt as soon as Richard got banned. Because I've always brought this up. Everyone ignores this detail. One of the part that they always claim, and I know it's a lie, I've proven it in my own actions. They claim that if you go on Reddit, right, and someone types something like Richard Lewis just abuses women or something, they claim that if you click report and then click this violates one of the r/League of Legends rules, and then you pick personal attack, that they will remove the comment. They will never remove that comment. Or there's a very low chance they will ever remove it. And they would probably just claim later, like, oh, yeah, we just didn't have the time to get to that, if you, like, called them out publicly. Well, the reason why they don't allow you to do that if you're famous is because what Richard's just saying is the easiest way to dismantle these fucks. I did it myself. I'll give you an example. There was a guy where when Richard did the video, which was like all these coaches are getting fucked up for the coaching bug, and obviously he showed a bunch of the Brazilian coaches, right, because they're the shithead fans who've just been crying about everyone cheating. It's totally fair game to just point out that all their coaches have been banned for fucking cheating or implicated in it, right? Yeah. There was a guy who was like, well, I'm not one of those, you know, bad MIBR fans, but I actually think Richard was biased in this. And I just literally went through his comment history for like 5 seconds and just said, you literally lied, you know, like a few days ago and said that Fallen never claimed that Leaf was cheating. And then when everyone saw that, obviously everyone was just like, well, this guy's just lied, I'm voting. So it's like, we could do that, you know, it's not hard. But the problem is people don't ever do that. They just take these comments in isolation, which doesn't, in an ideal world, this is what you do, and act like these aren't people who, like, as you say, it's the person delivering the message matters as well. So in that case, like, that one was perfect, because I told you, there are no good MIBR fans. There's just ones who know how to lie.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's whole approach, like, I would never do that. Like, why are you defending Fallen for?
Well, you know, it's like that guy we had on before, where it's like me saying that, you know, a Brazilian user who was calling me a fat irrelevant, you know, piece of shit or whatever the fuck it was, saying that he has a bad computer is racist. You know, just and spamming threads like, mods, look what he's doing, get him, Reddit mods, and the Reddit mods are deleting it.
I love
Reddit,
that shit.
Right,
I love that.
Right? And then he's...
My favourite is whenever they freak out, basically, and start going,
and like literally on Reddit going, you're lucky the mods are protecting you wherever you are, Richard Lewis, curse you!
I also, low-key, actually do seriously love it when they imply that we're the ones who have the connection. That's a conspiracy.
I know, imagine that.
Of all people, right? It's Reddit mods covering our asses.
I know, exactly.
It's so stupid. You get it from every angle in esports. You can't win. You can't win.
But yeah, so that's purely fire on Reddit, like just deranged beyond all reason. Like I've never seen anything like it, man. But anyway, so yeah, let's do this 10 a.m. thing because I want to just add to something. Because right, so I can admit the game I'm in. Right, I don't give a fuck. So basically, I got asked about it during a live stream. You know, like Stewie 2K or it was over at Liquid was complaining about having a 10 a.m. start at a DreamHack qualifier as part of a schedule that they knew about a month in advance. Right now, usually games start at 12. And you play through the afternoons. And remember, pros typically only play one game a day. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the issue, which is completely separate, which I saw another player complain about, and I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but around about the same time, a player said, this is hell, and they had literally been up since 7 a.m., and they were still playing at like 10 p.m. at night, playing multiple games and stuff like that. So that's not what we're talking about. Generally, the rule is now pros only play one competitive game per day during tournament play, and it's generally in the afternoon. Sometimes, you know, you might have to play in the evenings. Sometimes, very rarely, it might be at night during the online, you know, kind of era. But we in general, pros have it pretty good, I would say, with the working schedule these days. Now, so Stewie said having to get up at 10 a.m. was bad, and so I got asked about it during the stream, and I just sort of recalled my experience of starting out as a labourer, being a hod carrier on a building site, and, you know, how early I'd have to get up, and, you know, all that boomer shit. Like, my generation were real men, and the generation before me, they were even realer men, you know, working down pits. Can you imagine if you 10 a.m. lie in, bloody luxury, right? Doing all of that stuff. But, you know, and I made a video of it and I put it out today. And I want to add, just so you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not mentally ill. I'm fully aware of my actions. Obviously, this is a clickbait exercise. It is outrage bait. Because I know the community reacted badly to that statement, and this time, my opinion is in line with most of the community that I think mourning about a 10 a.m. start publicly achieves absolutely nothing and will be used to mock you and ridicule you. And not only that,
it makes you look like a caricature of the entitled brat, doesn't it?
Yes, and not only that, next time you're in a drama or next time your team's doing badly, all of those people that you have now antagonized with what should be a throwaway statement that no one really gets upset about, they're going to be there the next time. So now you've essentially created a bunch of haters. And the other thing was obviously Moses, the coach, and very, very good personal friend. I did criticize him a little bit because he did the coach thing where he came out and tried to protect his players.
Doing the Moses thing, in it, like you just, I know this guy. He's an all right lad. You know, give him a break.
But I want to make it absolutely clear that, again, I am aware that is what Jason is doing because Jason is an adult and I have been in the trenches with him many times at events, working unbelievable hours and working unbelievably hard to bring the magic of esports to you guys. And it's in nowhere a reflection of our relationship or anything like that. Like, there was a lot of people going, glad you stuck the boot in on Moses. I'd never stick the boot in on Moses. He's like my fucking blood. He's like one of my best friends. Like, he's a fucking, I love that man. So you're misreading the signals if you think that's what I'm doing. So I wanted to clear it up a little bit, but I also know enough that just to get that final squeeze of straight fire out. Well, I've got to ask your opinion, haven't I? Because
sure.
No, but I saw you do a tweet actually, which was very surprising because when Major, the CS in-game leader, formerly of Space Soldiers, came out and said, listen, anyone complaining about that is, you know, it's the dream job, etc., all the platitudes you would expect. I think you said, what was it your tweet said? Going, listen, you don't even have to worry about it because you're a washed-up bust out cunt or something.
No, I just said something like, look, like, to be fair, you know, wouldn't be like, no, because he said essentially, like, all we're doing is we're just playing CS when we do this, right? Like, it's just a video game. It's that sort of angle he was taking.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, to be fair, to Major, it is just a video game, innit? Because he's like a fucking washed up bomb. Like, that's it. Like, what do you want? He is. He's irrelevant. He's completely irrelevant. And that's also the problem with all these.
I don't co-sign this statement.
Don't have to. Listen, mate, came in your fantasy team for insert whatever tier 1 million tournament he plays in. So, I mean, at this point in time, the fantasy would be how he'd get in the game, wouldn't he? So the problem I have is this, is Major also has opened himself up for exactly, like, this is one of the problems with online discourse. say you are a new school player, like I'll give you an example. Say you're Rops, right?
Yeah.
If someone says to you, who do you think was better, top CSGO pros or top 1.6 pros? Even if you genuinely think it's CSGO pros, I'm sorry, a lot of us are just going to think, well, you're just a fucking kid from CSGO. You don't know 1.6, you're biased. So in the same sense, I don't know how Major didn't see that he was opening himself up. Like, he's just doing your version of that, though. He's going like, well, I used to play when I used to go to a LAN and stay at a travel lodge. It's like, what's that have to do with now? Like, what's that have to do with the situation right now? Because that whole angle to me is whack. Like, of all the angles to take, I'll never get that angle of the one of like, but we're just playing video games. This is the dream. We're not. That's why it isn't fun.
Yeah.
Like, if we really were waking up and playing Duck Hunt and and Super Mario Smash Brothers and fucking just fun games for funsies in our pajamas, yeah, I would say it's outrageous if you then complain about what time you have to get up and the hours you work. That's not what you're doing. You're getting up at a certain time as a professional who has to have had enough sleep, had the right of like food arrangements, exercise, all of those things have to be in balance in your life. You get no excuses for failure and you must perform at the highest level in the world in the match. Like, in that scenario, that's a job. So then it just becomes about what you're working on. Like, it's actually, there's a million angles you can go with the discussion. So to me, the major one was just literally a guy being a boomer. Like, well, and by the way, I'm just reading into this. I don't know Major as a person. I don't give a fuck. That just sounds like he's got sour grapes, doesn't he? Like, I'm sure he wishes he was the top pro. I'm sure he'd like to be in Vitality or something. So it's like,
I don't even think he was lashing out at anyone. I don't even think he was lashing out at anyone, mate. I just thought it was like a statement as if to say, kind of in line with the fans, like, you know, listen, yeah, it's a good job. Maybe these pros are a little bit entitled. Like, I mean, because you must think that too, right? You think what they said.
I do think, here's the thing. I think they're entitled on some level. It depends, though. The problem with this one is this one has like a very strong case you can make for it. Like I said, mate, you can't, on the one hand, play a game at 1 a.m. and then maybe 2 days later have to play a game at 10 a.m. That's untenable. That is untenable to perform at a world-class level. Like, you could not literally ask like a world-class athlete, be in your peak physical shape at 4 p.m. on Wednesday and then on Friday at 3 in the morning. Like, that would be totally unacceptable. But that's what we're doing to someone who's an athlete of the mind, who has to be in a mental state that is flawless at that point in time. So that is an easy case to make because we've just had ESL games go to like 2 a.m. So that's a totally valid topic about the schedule. Now, here's the thing. I'll give you an example where I would agree with like what you're implying, which is when Flashpoint was going on, I won't say who they were because they got away with this. I heard behind the scenes, oh, there's a young player who's upset about one of the games being at 10 a.m., similar call time, right? And that they were going to make a tweet, but then they decided last minute like to not do it because someone in their team told them, like, oh, it'll be bad PR. Now, if that player had done it, I even said I would have roasted them on air because the reason I would roast them on air is how tone deaf are you? We're in LA, you stupid twat. Of course it has to be 10 a.m. local time. 10 a.m. local time is 7 p.m. start time in Europe. That means we're already getting to the end of the European prime time, you moron. Like, that's an example of someone who is just totally entitled and doesn't understand. By the way, that's a 10 a.m. start time in LA and a tournament with the prize pool of a major, but tier 2 teams, you fucking idiot. You're going to complain about that. That is looking a gift horse in the mouth. Like, that is egregious to me. But in this case, I feel like if they're just talking about online games and they mean like one tournament scheduled terribly to another one, I can see their point on that one. Like, it's going to come off because they're not good at articulating themselves as they're just entitled idiots complaining about 10 a.m. call times. But like, I don't think there's no merit in that scenario, in that makes sense. Like, I think there was like a point could have been made in there. So the problem with the major one is I personally, at my timeline was I thought he was replying to like Alex's comment where Alex tried to imply like we're not just playing video games or whatever. So that's my bigger issue there. And also it's just a chance to flame majors for being a fucking idiot. So anytime I take a freebie like that, I mean, it's not even relevant anymore anyway. There's this one shout in the next 10 years.
But so I mean, like I say, there was no ill will on my part. It was just one of those things where it's like you have to know, especially like in the position Stewie's in, what a bad idea it is to sort of ever put anything like that out in public. Because first of all, it changes absolutely nothing. Like they're not going to go, well, fuck, we've upset Stewie, so better change the whole schedule and fuck up how many viewers we can get for a game. That's not happening. But then. On top of that, like you're an in-game leader for a Team Liquid side, which, whisper it, you haven't done too great lately, actually. You know, you brought in a new coach, you brought in a new player, we've got a new in-game leader, you're shouldering all the burden. Again, like I said on the stream, the fact that you can even be thinking about what time you have to get out of bed, I don't know, mate. Are you not distracted here? Have you not got like other things to be thinking about? So it's just terrible optics. And like, and I said as well, if a player like that ever did that, you're just isolating yourself from the community. Like at a time when, by the way, most people are losing their jobs. We've had like a huge economic crisis. There's people who would like love to be getting up and going. Yeah. Like, and listen, I understand. Like, essentially, the story is kid who's never had a real job or a real life. Makes stupid throwaway glib statement about how hard he's got it. There really isn't a story there. I wasn't like
we put as much scrutiny on it is a flaw of us as a society. It's like, why the fuck would we be obsessed with what an 18-year-old kid who plays video games? Does he quite understand the magnitude of playing the games? It's like, we are a bit stupid for that as a society. I'm with you on that.
100%.
Shouldn't be that big a deal.
What I was doing was, I was engaged in essentially like, just a little good old honest bit of outrage bit. The only reason I put it up on YouTube is because I knew it would go on Reddit and I knew that it would fucking bang in terms of like people, leaving comments and help me out algorithmically. It's not like I think it's an important issue. It's throwaway nonsense, but like, again, some people like seem to think there's like way more to it than that. And it just...
Listen, aside from the fact that, everyone is totally welcome to meme these people if they think it's nonsense. So, of course, do whatever you want. But I will say that last comment, like, just think about this for a second. If you are above the age of about 21 and you've had any real life experience, is it really that big a deal that some stupid kid who basically is like 15-year-olds inside his heart and has only played video games for a career doesn't understand that that's not the hardest job in the world? It's not really that big a deal, is it? It's fairly minor. We can forgive them that, I'm sure. Just some stupidity, youthful stupidity.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into the viewer questions. For those who don't know, every week, if you're a $50 or more patron, you get to ask a question. It can be about anything, and we'll do our best to answer it. So Buttpounder420 asks, has anyone ever abandoned and pissed in the face of their original fan base harder than Stephen Colbert? I'm trying to even think about.
I don't know what his original stick was.
Let me ask.
What's this
let me
a
ask
reference to? Yeah, go on.
Well, no, I'm guessing he just means politically. Like to him, he probably thought the Daily Show was cool as fuck back in the day. And now he thinks like Stephen Colbert, I'm going to guess, is like a sellout shill bitch who just supports the establishment and fucking Biden or whatever. I don't even know what Stephen Colbert's politics. I'm guessing that's the fucking angle he's on.
Unless is he saying that? Like, I mean, did he believe the parody version of Stephen Colbert, or I don't really get the question here. I like.
By the way, what I was going to say is this though: is I actually think, my dude, all you've done there is reveal your very specific perceptions of Stephen Colbert. Because to me, what I realize about Stephen Colbert is he hasn't changed. I have. Like he's been sat still on the moving train, and he's now just over here in a really weird area because he always believed that shit. Like, have you guys not figured this out? Like. And I hate to break it to people because it's going to make so many people upset. Jon Stewart might be really cool when he's talking on like a 9/11 fucking firefighters commission, whatever. He believes all that same shit. He would vote for people who'd start endless, countless fucking like blood for oil wars in the Middle East and all sorts of shite. Like these people, here's the sad thing that we actually learned in the last 15 years. It isn't what everyone thinks that we've unveiled all this. All you realized is they were all fake. They were all part of the establishment the whole time. They were in wrestling. They were just the fucking baby faces. That's why when their guy was in power, they didn't say shit. They made all sorts of whack jokes that weren't even funny. Like they were just doing stuff like fucking vaudeville level shit. Meanwhile, when the person they don't like comes back in, they're the most sellout hacks of all time. Like, sadly, all those people are like that. It's just everyone on American TV is basically like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think as well, though, like, just in general, I think all those late night shows have had a big shift from being where it used to be like, here's something topical, here's something as well that's almost like borderline activism, but it could be about something like kind of cool, like, again, the 9/11 stuff. I mean, remember back when we had Jon Stewart doing things. Jon Stewart was, obviously, despite being a very, liberal-minded dude, he was sort of an equal opportunities offender in the sense he would regularly mock the DNC, did entire routines about Obama, and, I think he was the ones that pointed out Joe Biden was a creepy, sniffer man, right? Like I think he had a bit about that on his Daily Show or whatever it was. But the reality is, unfortunately, that's all gone now. There's only like a very limited field. If you want to be on television, there's a very limited field of thought that you're allowed to kind of operate within. And so I don't think it's necessarily Stephen Colbert pissing in the face of his original fan base. I think it's just like these people only care about fame, and status and influence, and as a result, they will always go with the status quo. I mean, I think isn't Stephen Colbert, isn't he related to some DNC operative as well? I'm pretty
It wouldn't
sure.
surprise me. That would make a lot of sense.
So, you know, I don't know why anyone would be surprised about him being what he is today. It was always gonna go there. Anyway, WatchDoge says, side note, the question last week about Cobain, Cornell, etc. was prompted by me watching Like a Stone and seeing your comment as a top comment. Sad times indeed. But which character from the In-Betweeners most closely resembles a person from your real life during your school days? Now, I never watched the In-Betweeners. I thought it was shite.
It
Well,
was.
There's one who's like that guy who always has a lie for everything. Oh, like, oh yeah, I fucked all these girls last week. Every school's got one of
Everyone
those.
knows someone like that.
Everyone's
Yes,
got one
of
of
course.
those. What's his guy's name again? Jay, I think.
Yeah, the one who's like the blonde one.
Yeah.
Basically, like I've only watched like the first few seasons because actually, like I'm guessing it was the same with you, Richard. I had loads of people going, "It's fucking banging! It's like, oh, it's so good! It's like you're back in college and that." I was watching like, this is the most puerile shit I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
This isn't even funny. This isn't even funny. But anyway, basically, what Sam's describing now is also why one thing that actually this newer generation you should be so grateful for is that you all just have smartphones with internet access. Do you know how much shit me and Richard have had to sit and listen to from people who were just vaguely believable liars? I'm talking about, you would be like 7 years old, and first of all, they'd be talking about how they'd like fingered one of the fucking like fucking female teachers, just stuff that like there's no plausible way, or like, you know, it was always that their like dad's cousin, like, you know, knows fucking Sylvester Stallone, and he's getting him on the next movie.
I
like,
had the ultimate. I had the ultimate, right? I went to school with a lad called Sean, and this kid, bless him, right? For some reason, like the bullies sort of kept him around like a pet, right? But he was stick thin, like almost malnourished. Like he was pale. He had raging ginger hair. Like
surname was King.
Right, no.
Because
no,
I'm not going to say anything else. If you have a laugh, just search that name, children's pictures. Just search children's pictures. That's all you have to do. All you have to do.
But also, as well, the poor lad, he had a fucking cleft palate, you know.
Get me out of here.
Right. And so he had the scar on his lip.
I was designed by committee to be bullied.
No, exactly right. But he was also an habitual liar. So he would fucking. So the first thing was he didn't have a cleft palate, like, because I didn't know about cleft palates enough, and I'd never seen one before when I was a kid. So I remember asking him, like, oh, how have you got that there, like? And he had it was very nasally. He had he hadn't quite mastered the voice, and he was going, "Yeah, I was in a fight, and someone tried to give me a Chelsea smile," and like fucking just everything he said was a lie. And then he told me, and this in all seriousness, looked me dead in the eye and told me to keep this a secret. He told me that his dad was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What do you mean?
I need you to think about all of the genetics.
Of course.
All of the genetic aberrations that this is. And he said that he was the son of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that he'd been dropped into this school in
fucking Hey Arnold.
It was unbelievable, mate. It was so bad. And he swore blind. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Mate, that kid's life was... Oh, mate.
Who was his mother? A fucking Cronenberg? Like, how does
I don't even know.
Schwarzenegger make that?
I don't even know.
Have you seen his actual son as well? It literally just looks like Arnie duplicated. He's got the exact same genes. He's fucking massive.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like that's definitely your love child, sir. Yeah, but yeah, like not this guy. It was just awful. And the thing is, as well, he was one of those dudes that I know from later in life. You know, you think, oh, bullying, you know, people will stop being bullied at some point. Like, but he was just, his life was just awful. Like, even as an adult, people used to pick on him he worked at a tile chopping factory. And because of his cleft palate, he couldn't say certain words. And so they would always name projects or shifts that were like, he couldn't say flamingo. He couldn't say flamingo. So they would be like, oh, you're going to be on the flamingo shift tomorrow. And he went, right, yeah. And they would go, what shift are you on, Sean? And he go, flamingo. And he go, oh, sorry, Sean, I didn't. Like, everyone was just, mate, he was just tortured for life. People are just savage, like. We shouldn't be allowed to interact with people.
Those are the people where the worst thing is in the UK, we're so cruel as a culture because we've like socially sort of fucking smoothed off all the rough edges to make ourselves feel good as a society. So what they always do with people like that, it's classic, is they always do that shit where the kids who were just wrecking him all the time are always just like, tell you what though, he's going to get us back so hard one day, guys. You don't even believe.
Never.
He's always giving it back just as good as he gets. Like they never do, by the way. They never even like whispering a peep. But like,
I'll tell you the worst bit as well. I'll tell you the worst bit. Right, we went on a school trip to a theme park. It was Lightwater Valley. It was. And anyway, as you may or may not know, when people with like special needs, disabled people
go straight to the front, course.
Go straight to the front, right? So we're all queuing up with Sean, right? And someone in a wheelchair that's got I don't know, like some severe physical impairment is pushed to the front of the queue, and they push the chair round in front of us. But on the back of the wheelchair, they've got a personalised number plate. And it's SH4UN, Sean, right? And one of the fucking bullies just goes, "Fucking hell, Sean, they brought your chair up here, mate!" Like, everyone's fucking absolutely creased. And mate, he's crying, "Fuck off, man! No, it's not my chair! Fuck off!" Oh, mate, it was horrible.
Because obviously, the worst thing is what, by the way, is like when you're a kid as well, you don't have the full self-awareness of all this, so you're just cracking up like, "Oh, I fucking roasted him."
No, yeah, they're like haunted by some of the stuff I saw as a child. Like it's just so unreasonable.
It's funny how you realise how bad it is, though. You're just like, "Fucking hell."
Yeah, no, really, mate. Like really though, as well. Like you're like, "Fucking hell, how did you cope with that? Like, how did you get through, mate?" He must be very mentally strong. Maybe that's the thing he inherited from his dad, Arnold. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for that question. Next question. GamingPoleDK says, "You've been transported into a world that does a yearly purge. What would you be doing on purge night?" I mean, so the purge, for those who don't know, that's that movie. Well, no, but it's just you can commit any crime. It's basically there's like an amnesty on all crimes. Doesn't have to be murder. I want to stress that.
What I would do,
because we're entering into potentially dodgy territory here, Duncan. So you know.
What I would do,
if you could not,
I would just encourage all the 10-year-olds in the world to just only cheat and get VAC banned that one night, and then like some sort of a crazy world, they could be forgiven for that one sin as a 10-year-old cheating one time in Valve anti-cheat, and then be allowed to go on with careers after that. So it's kind of an out there crazy sci-fi concept, but could be a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. I mean, I'm trying to think like, there's definitely, see, I can't say it. It's a question I just can't answer, honestly.
The real thing is, where could you, if you wanted to play it long term, and you didn't want to die, obviously, is where could you steal from that has a bunch of money there, but isn't going to attract everyone else? So where something, like I was thinking, something that people wouldn't think is worth money, like stealing coffee beans or something, like stealing loads of shit in one go. Because who's robbing the coffee bean place on Purge, mate? There's nobody at the coffee bean place. So if I could take 10 and sell them, day two, mate.
Market coffee
beans.
Yeah,
day two, I'm selling beans.
You think you're getting rich off beans?
Well, there might be other things. What else can you steal? I'm thinking, what can you steal that nobody else is going to target?
You're like that fella during the fucking riots who went into fucking Tesco and stole that big bag of rice.
But when Civil War kicks off, people are still going to need coffee to get out the house, mate. They're going to be coming to the coffee salesman. I'll have protection from all the militias because I got the coffee.
Listen, for me, mate, I think if you want to, what you have to do is, while everyone else is out robbing stores and all that, you rob houses.
Yeah, but there's gonna, like, for me, if it was a purge, I wouldn't be going outside, mate. If you want to live, you want to stay in the house and protect yourself and house. There's gonna be a load of people. It's gonna be. That's what I mean. Yeah, you're gonna be armed to the teeth in the house. So imagine if you go to the wrong house, mate, and you just run into fucking Mr. Preparer, like.
I'll just get a crew together. Like everyone else is going to be out there doing their thing, right?
We're the 18, mate.
Yeah, I'll get fucking face out the asylum.
I'll bring it back. I'll sanitize it and say the obvious one that we actually would do. So if this is a purge, you can commit any crime, right? First things first. Obviously, we're going and checking Fush's fucking home PC. So
Just imagine using the purge. Just imagine using the purge as the predicate for this. You're gonna be in a fucking concept video now.
Like this? I know it's fucking sick, isn't it?
But yeah, I mean, for me, like, I don't know.
Wait, first things first, Flusher. You're not going to catch me that easy, mate. We're not just running the scan. I'm going folder by folder when you're like, there's nothing there. So my taxes are better to your taxes. In the registry, everything. Looking in that fucking Windows 32 system file. We know all the places, Flusher. I'll be inside that shit like the New York Times trying to find out Trump's tax returns, motherfucker. Like, I'll be all in your shit.
Yeah, they've got him this time, like 0 there.
There's nothing there. That's an example of when, for real.
Even I was like, oh god, yeah, please.
Respected institutions are just the worst clickbait trash ever. When I read that, I must have read about 2 pages. I was like, there's still nothing here. Like, what is this?
I know.
Does it get good? There's
no, but they're like, 1 year he only paid $750. You're like, okay, why? Tax evasion, is it? Because he lost so much money the previous 3 years.
God, no.
We all know he's a shit businessman, you mad cunts. We all knew that. Anyway, ReykjavikOnSteam. Which piece on a Monopoly board would Carmack... Why are you asking about other people? Would Carmack be based purely on their attempt to monopolize competitive counterstrike next year?
Not a bad joke at the end.
It's not a bad joke. He saved it. But like, what piece do you pick when you play Monopoly? Which, by the way, is a shit game.
I think I used to be the top hat. Obviously, I had ideas above my own station. Dreamed of, making it to the upper classes from a young working class boy. Or the dog. Those are actually, you know what? The dog was usually all girls who picked the dog. I'd probably say the top hat of the iron. You know that like old iron.
Yeah, the old iron.
Pretty cool. Cool.
Funnily enough, now you've not emaciated, you've emasculated me. If only you could emaciate me. Yeah, I used to pick the dog a lot. Okay. Dog was right up there for me, mate. I was I get the dog every time I could. Dog or the boot. Really.
Carmack, I don't know what he'd use. There wasn't any sort of an orc fucking, piece or anything. So
sports car, probably.
He'd probably just have a little guy that he made himself doing a judo fucking flip or some sort of just pick and fucking get right up and going, oh, bloody hell.
Stevie Gerrard.
I still can't believe that's supposed to be my actual competition. That's where I knew this was a simulation. And here's your competition to compete with your whole life, Thorin. Oh, I'm holding him bloody upside down. And everyone's like, give him awards. Give him the awards. He's the greatest man we've ever seen in your field, Thorin. And by the way, you're not getting any awards. He's getting all of them. He's a fucking legend. And I'm like, it's sounding it. Right, what am I going to have to do then? Learn how to just talk shit on people? They were like, yes.
RezChi asks, what's the largest animal you think you could knock out with a single punch?
Dorsia. Also, I know. I also don't think, by the way, a single punch really knocked Dorsey out. He looks like he'd
walk off.
Mate, he looks like he'd be like in those movies from the 80s where, some guy just cracks like a henchman and the henchman just looks at him like.
Yeah, and you go, oh, shit.
Yeah, that's what it looks like it happened if you went to Dorsey.
Mate, yeah, like that fucking, what is it, Grossberger in fucking Stir Crazy. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Good times. I don't know. Listen, I'm confident in my technique. I reckon I could.
But the thing is, you got to
sleep a gorilla.
That's it. You got to analyze the anatomy of the animal. Some animals might not even be able to get KO'd. Mate. It's all about the brain moving. What if they've just got a really tight brain? It might be a knockout.
Yeah, I literally don't think gorillas can be.
Not by force. Maybe with chemicals, obviously. Yeah, not by sheer
not even
force.
Then. Not even then. Not even then. I don't know actually. Because bears, the big boys are off the table. You're not doing bears and gorillas. You're definitely not doing elephants.
I'm thinking what big cattle, farm animals. Maybe a small cat, a small lamb. I don't know.
You've seen Blazing Saddles, obviously. Yeah. Do you remember when Mungo knocks out the horse?
Yeah.
I still don't know how they do that without that horse actually getting hurt. By the way, because No, I've legit watched that scene.
It was a while ago, mate. I don't think they took that into consideration, really.
Yeah, I know, mate. I reckon that horse did get sparked.
They probably just filmed it in fucking Thailand or something.
Yeah, where it's okay to do that stuff.
There'll be some shit like that, yeah.
Yeah, I hope not. I like horses. They get a bum deal in life. They do, having to cope with us. But if Mungo could do a horse, I reckon I could do a horse. I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't actually want to hurt an animal. This is survival, obviously. This is if the animal's evil, trying to kill you.
AliceTheAlchemist asks, "Hey, Rich, when do you, Thorin and Sam, reckon America will stop putting high fructose corn syrup in every fucking thing they
I
make
fucking hate that
and
shit.
start being like other normal nations?" Well, the
It's
answer
going
to
to go the
that,
other way, if anything. Surely all the other countries will start putting that shite in everything.
eventually, who knows? Like, but yeah, I reckon never. I'm gonna say never. Like,
Yeah, the answer's never. Come on.
How much
Yeah.
cheaper is it than sugar? Like, is it really that much cheaper than sugar?
It doesn't have to be. That's the problem, Sam, isn't it? Because they've scaled it up with globalism. Like, even if you just save like a fucking nickel, it's like a nickel times X
true.
units. So they'll just do it anyway, won't they? Just to like because basically the premise behind stuff like that. It's like I always say about the Iron Brew angle. The whole appeal of Iron Brew is it was just sugar in a fucking drink, so it was just delicious. So what did they do? Just put in a bunch of fake versions of sugar that are cheaper for them and just make it taste worse for you. But now there's no alternative, so you have to just take it. That's the only option you have. So sadly, if you look at the way the world's gone, it's going to go worse, if anything. They're going to put even more shite and even more bad chemicals, and everything's going to have no nutritional value. And the real reason, by the way, sadly, if you get down to it, is because this is an area that people are fucking brainwashed. It isn't the government's job to stop those companies doing that. You know whose job it is? You, the consumer. Stop putting their poison into your mouth. You choose the food that goes in your mouth. You can go to a guy who shows you, I'm not selling it with that in, but you go, I'll have the other drinks, it's cheaper or a more famous brand. You're the one doing it. You are the one allowing evil to happen. There's no one coming with a gun making you drink a Pepsi. There's no one coming making you take some shit healthcare. There's no one coming making you not work out. You choose all those things. So like, even though I agree, it is fucked up how these companies behave. They are super cynical. They show no regard for human life. At the end, we do literally enable and facilitate them doing it. They couldn't do it without us. So you can't blame them entirely. And definitely don't look to the government to fix it. The government is in their pocket. They're never going to fix it to be better for you unless a guy from a rival cartel who's probably in a different area with some other sweetener gets involved and uses that as a pretext to get the other one banned. And that'll just be a different form of government corruption. So don't ever look externally for someone to fix that shit for you, mate. You got to fix it yourself. And I don't claim I'm perfect on this. I definitely drink that shite sometimes, but at least I know I'm doing it, you know.
Jerckysminion, if you would die in a horror movie, how would you go out in it? Definitely the mad, like, I've been bit by a zombie.
Got to be something cool.
Are you going to be the one who hides it? Are you going to wrap it up? And
No, I'm not. I'm going to be the one who goes, listen, guys,
I got 10 minutes.
Go with you. Yeah, I'm not going to go with you on this last ride. Just give me a bottle of whiskey and get out of here and just fucking, like, jack up a chainsaw.
Like,
that's one thing I always thought, though. You know, normally horror movies are so implausible and unrealistic. Everyone's reaction's ridiculous. That's one of the only tropes that is really legit, which is we can all totally understand that the second before the character's bitten, of course, you'd be like, if any of us get bit, we have to like agree to kill them and get rid of them. But we all know the second you actually get bit, you just think of yourself only, wouldn't you? You would be hiding it. You would be like, oh, I've got to see if there's somewhere I can still hide. Like, that's actually a trope that's mad relatable. I always thought it was a very clever social aspect to put in.
So for me, like I said, it's definitely that. I've got to be the sacrifice guy. I'm all about that. You're all like the sacrifice guy in horror movies. You know, I don't want to make it to the end and deal with whatever comes after. I'll go out in a blaze of glory. I'm that dude for sure. Next question. Alon, do you think Glaive could take a different team to the absolute top without Zonic? Assuming we get back to having lands. I'll say, I mean, I've said it many times, I think Glaive is like a legit fucking in-game leader, like an actual leader of men as well. Like, he's got a lot of good leadership qualities. He really matured compared to how he used to be when he was younger. He knows what it takes to be a pro. He's battled back from like some pretty heinous illnesses. And I think Zonic is an incredible tool to use. An incredible foil to have, one of the best coaches in world esports. I'd say that, you know, you've got to say Glaive could be a really good in-game leader without him and take a team to the #1 spot. I mean, if he can't, who else can?
Yeah, the problem with that is, like, put it this way, I value in-game leader over coach at this point in time in CSGO, with some very rare exceptions. So, like, in the case of an in-game leader who is the best, like Glaive, I think it's just a more powerful position than coach right now. This isn't the NFL, guys. Like, the coach isn't the most important part, or like the whole vision. Like, as you say, he's more like, in most teams, he is like an assistant to the IGL. How about that? Or he just runs things the IGL shouldn't have to have his hands in. So yeah, if I had to pick between the two, like I would pick Glaive to be more successful. Like it's actually almost a shame because of how long careers are. You're not going to generally get 20-year playing careers. We'll never really get a chance to really test that out. Probably they'll just play most of their primes together and then one of them will retire. So we'll probably never get the chance to see if it happens.
Adward's got another one of those really long questions, so hold that over for next week. Sam, Jdubs, with hints that lots of top coaches will be hit by bug abuse bans, who are some former players or older current players from the top countries that you'd like to see get a chance at coaching? I mean, he probably doesn't want to go. Fallen's an obvious one. I think he'd be a really good coach if he can get his fucking head out his ass and get back in the game. I mean, he's obviously a very intelligent dude, understands the game. I think he'd be a better coach than in-game leader, and I think it'd be good to see him like get his hands on a bunch of new players and maybe educate them. I'm looking forward to seeing what Taz does eventually. Could have pictured him being a great motivational coach. You know, like just very good at sort of bringing young talent through and that sort of thing. I think both of those guys are shoo-ins for that kind of role.
I mean, I think an obvious one would be like Carrigan. Just think about how many different players he's used, different pieces. Like even the sort of things he often applies to his in-game leader aspect seem like coaching aspects, like knowing to switch someone's role up, or this guy needs to be played around or something like that. And that'd be a great skill set to have as a coach or a GM or some role like that, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Then we have the last question. Ehco, how much money would the community have to raise to get Sam to legally change his first name to Bane Law?
Not even that much. I bet you do it for like 10 grand or something.
Assuming I can't change it back, because obviously if I can instantly change it back, then, you know...
No, you'd have to do it like 5 years
I'd have to
keep surely, you know, like some rule.
The upside is, obviously, working at esports, it's not going to affect my job. Like, saying my name's Bane Law, nobody gives a fuck. I don't know. Yeah, about 10... Nah, because the problem with 10 grand is that's doable. So that could actually happen, and I wouldn't do it for 10 grand.
That's why I picked it, though, because I'm just thinking, if someone literally had the 10 grand, and they were like, come on, Sam, we can do it today.
If someone was here right now, 10 grand cash in hand with a deed poll, yeah, I probably would say it.
Of course, why wouldn't you? Yeah. Like he says, especially, by the way, if when you leave esports, you can change your name back, fuck it, but why not at that point, right?
Yeah.
The only downside, of course, is if you die during that time, and everyone's like, and here we are.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'd leave it in my will or something, change it back at least. I don't want to die as Bane Law, but yeah, see Jerckysminions in the chat, like, look, I got 10 grand, I don't want 10 grand, mate, you can keep it, I like my name. Maybe if I'm drunk and you see me in a bar and you've got 10 grand on you, we'll talk.
Cause Stewie 2K is like, I wouldn't even bloody wake up before 4 in the afternoon for 10 grand a day.
Put it this way, like, I mean, I just don't even see what you're losing here. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's just a mild inconvenience having to change everything, like your bank, and having to go through all the records and change everything over. Like, assuming I'm not going to just wreck them and just immediately change them. I'm like, wait, thanks for the 10 grand, dickhead, get loopholed. So I'd have to change everything, which is a ball ache. But yeah.
You know, you think about people doing all sorts of mad shit. Like, what about the time the Dirty Sanchez boys accidentally married each other or something?
Yeah, mate, do you remember that Dave Gorman comedian? He's pretty much dead now. But he had an old project where like 8 people changed their name to Dave Gorman.
Yeah,
just because he was trying to do
I am Dave Gorman.
Yeah, trying to find as many people called Dave Gorman by a time, and he was running out of time, so people just changed their name to Dave Gorman. So if those cunts are doing it for fuck all, just for a bit of TV time, I'll take
just to be in a fringe niche web comedy show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. There are all the questions. So one last thing before we start reeling off everything. We did have a donation from an S Gares in our $100 patron tier, and obviously it was Sean Gares, actually the real Sean Gares. A lot of people thought maybe we were joking, and he because he watches the show religiously like all the pros do. He did send me a message. Well, we don't have a lot of time to talk with each other with work, and he's working and parenthood and all that stuff. But he just said, that was me on Patreon. You both have given me so many hours of content. I wanted to show some appreciation. Thanks for all you both do. Just me and Duncan, not you, Sam.
Wholesome.
Yeah, so there you go. That's Sean Gares. He's a great person, great dude. And thank you for your money. I'll give it you all back when I see you in drinks. I'll take you out for a night out. So anyway, there you go.
So Nico isn't there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All my money will be like, Sean, sorry, mate.
Here's all you need to know about how bad fans are. Let this be the last word on it. This is the last anecdote.
Okay, right.
So you know, Nico. I even said it on the last episode. Like it had been like 3 days or 4 days, and he still hadn't bothered to like fucking pay that money to that charity. Which he remember he's trying to like one up me by being like, "Well, what's your PayPal?" So obviously thinking if he pays it off, like the deal's done. So obviously I just one upped him by being like, "Pay it to charity," and he hadn't done it right. So when he finally did it, after I called him out again, all the replies of dickheads were like, "Finally, I respect you now, Nico. What a great thing to do. You showed you're a good guy after all." It's like, what, because you wait till the last minute to pay a debt that you owed that you didn't pay before to charity of all things. But that doing that at the very end makes you a good guy. Like the standards are so impossibly low for fans. It is unbelievable. As in, we're at the point now where like if Fallen just in cold blood murdered someone and then just went, "I don't apologize, but it is a shame he's dead," they'd go, "Oh, it's great to see you've got a heart, Fallen. You are a good guy after all." It's like, what's the standard? Like, it's a good guy, is he, for just paying finally? The money you owed for like 5 years or something. Like, I can't handle fans. Just get me out. Like, what would he have to do to be a con?
It's not even his money as well. That's the best
Exactly.
part. It's money he owes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I told you that was going to happen anyway.
You can't win pick like that.
So anyway, all that remains to be said is shout out to the sponsors. Obviously, NordVPN, you want 70% off a VPN, go to nordvpn.com/RLS. Also, as well, you can go and show support to the main sponsor of me and my channel and all of that, .com, and esports betting platform. Go to .com/RLS and sign up. And we're still going to be working on the bot major. That's coming up soon, so will be plastered all over that. Much love to all the people who tuned in. Appreciate all the donations and subscriptions, and we will see you on the next episode of By the Numbers. Until then, take care. Oh shit, yeah,
You got to read the patrons.
No, because
you mind fuck me, yeah.
No, because I mentioned Sean Gares earlier. I thought I'd done the patrons.
Almost.
And obviously, our patrons, right? The people who brought the show back from the dead for the money. $100 patrons: Jerckysminion, Cashanath, the Sean Gares, Flacksmith, AliceTheAlchemist, ReykjavikOnSteam, Madams, and our $50 patrons: Smart as Superman, GamingPoleDK, Alon, Daniel Magnuson, Ehco, RezChi, Miss Alcoholic, Cathal, Jdubs, Tobias Bernasconi, Buttpounder420, WatchDoge, Carve, Madsen, Adam Edward, Zinged, Benakagi, Marcus Kyumpa, Sard Sawar, and Sigo. Thanks to all of them. Now get the fuck out of here. Bye.